Here we are with another Saturday Night Live. And today, what's today the date? June 15. I can't keep track of it anymore. It flies by so fast. And we have a very special guest, Hanspeter.
Hello, everybody. Yep.
And, you know, it's a pleasure to have you. You've been making some awesome posts with your wonderful drawings. There's one in the back there. You know,
Yeah,
talking about you make your beautiful posts with your little scripts and stuff, and they hit home for every time you write one of those. It's really cool and awesome to so people can relate to it more and more, right? And this is what it's all about: supporting each other, inspiring each other. You know, enjoying. Because if we're not going to enjoy it, we're not going to do it.
No, that's correct. Yeah.
So maybe you want to share a little bit about your background, how you found MFS, you know, what kind of lifestyle you lived before, and so on and so forth. And we'll leave the floor to you, and we'll cut in here and there.
Okay, no worries. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Look, it's first of all the name Hanspeter Madritsch. So obviously, I was bred in Switzerland, in Europe, and over there it's very common, same like in Italy, having two names as a first name.
Right.
Yeah. But when I migrated to Australia and people asked me, "Oh, what's your name?" And I said, Hanspeter. And they said, "How are you going, Hans?" I said, "Oh, well, okay." So after a while, I started to just use Hans, you know. But in real terms, everybody here then called me HP. So it's Hanspeter. So it's just abbreviation because the Aussies are very slack. And they just shorten up everything they can. And so it became HP here in Australia for a certain amount of years, you know what I mean? But now it's funny because, how should I say? With the culture and everything, see, when I came here first in 1986 and asked for a bottled water, people thought I was gay, you know, like because they couldn't comprehend quite, "Oh, what do you want, bottled water? What's wrong with tap water, you know?" So it comes down to that stuff, you know. And now they're actually, everybody's keen to have, you know, same with coffee, you know, I ask for a cappuccino. Same thing, the eyes wide up. What's wrong with a short black or a long white, you know, like just the differences. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah, the culture.
But anyway, so I grew up in Switzerland and, well, in fairly poor circumstances. Now, we didn't have a lot of money, 4 kids. Mum and dad, you know, she was pregnant when she was 18. So, and he was actually from Austria. So my first passport actually was Austrian. So I was actually an Austrian first because he came from Austria. Then we got migrated into Switzerland, became citizen there. So, because through mum. And yeah, so the upbringing was fairly, and obviously then from a food point of view, it was, yeah, bread, sugar, and butter, you know, like.
All the good stuff.
That's all we had, you know, like, and cordial. It was always cordial. My dad was sugar loving as well, so it was, but look, mum, you know, and she's still alive. I mean, she had her 80th birthday early this year, and I went over there to visit her. Look, she did everything she could, you know, like we all do. We do what we can, and she did the best. Although I have to say, if two people never should have got married, it would have been my father and my mother, because it wasn't a very, how should I say, loving and caring relationship they showed us, you know what I mean? And that reflected to us quite a lot too. And they were in, you know, like your traumas that you collect through your days, your young days, you know, like when you see your mother flying through the kitchen a few times on the, you know, on the backhand of my old man, that sort of, you know, that has an impact. It definitely has. And that's something I still deal, not anymore so much because I've released all that, but you have to deal with it eventually, because if you don't, it's coming up and up and up, as we know in this family very well, you know. So that was, but as I said, that was always, when, you know, he stuck to it because he didn't leave, or and so on and so on. So, and then he died early too, in 1984, 52, colon cancer that metastasizes onto the liver. 4 months later, he was gone. All right, so that was a shock to mum, because he was the tyrant that she obeyed to, and prior to him it was her father. So she was psychologically so damaged, and still is, because in 72, one day we came home from school and she was gone. She was hospitalized in a psychiatric clinic. And then all the medicine came in, you know, all the pharma came in.
Oh,
and, you know, like the old man blamed us. It was us, the kids were the fault, you know, like, okay, all right, well, what have we done wrong? We're just here, you know, you made us. It's not, why are you blaming us? But anyway, so that was something that over the whole decades, and that was then also the journey that why I started this whole thing, because of Mum. Mum always tried to help herself. She had a little book next to her bed, help yourself because nobody else will. So she always knew and she tried, but the information was not as forthcoming as what it is today.
right.
So it was hard, because even for us, when you wanted to learn something or you wanted to know something, you had to go to the library or find somebody that knew, and so on and so on. So that was not, as I said, it was, today we got Google University, so you can, you're a professor in 2 seconds flat, you know. So that's the way it goes, you know. But that was something that, now, like, when you see then how she suffered, and for us it was like you couldn't put a finger on it, and you didn't have the knowledge of anything. So that was something then. But when then the old man died, she was alone, and she was lost, completely lost, because she wasn't told what to do no more. We didn't, and it was very hard for her. So then she went into limbo, and she started to work again, and she did this, she did that, but she always complained, and she always had, because of her obviously lifestyle and dietary choices, and in particular the damage, the adrenal damage that is so great these days. That it never gets mentioned too much. The adrenal damage to me is number one of everything, because you're so conditioned everywhere you go and everywhere what you do. If you compare them that when you start to deflect into better health, yeah, it makes a huge difference. And then, as you said, as more you're trapped into it, the more you damage yourself. And you know, I see this with my own kids, how damaged they are.
What you're relating to is everybody's in that fight or flight mode continuously, and that's the problem. Yeah. That's not natural.
Absolutely.
Damaging.
And that's something that I had, you know, like, again, because what happened then, so in younger years, obviously the same as you play sport, you play soccer, you know, you wanted, yeah. But yeah, I played soccer and it was okay, but I wasn't obviously the best player on the field. But then one day the old man sent us to a rowing camp, you know, the Olympic class rowing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. I was hooked. After that, I was 13. So since 13, my goal was to become a world champion. All right, that is it. And everything else was second ranked. So and rowing is a very disciplined and, you know, very physical sport. So you went through phases, and I participated for that till I was 24, 25. And you just devoted everything you had. And you've learned just through participating, you did the discipline, and it educated you. And you didn't know that at the time, but that's what it did.
Right.
Because you had to be so focused, and because even, you know, like from that moment on, you know, some school friends, we'll have a party. No, I got to go training tomorrow morning. No, sorry, I can't do that. No. So I basically separated myself for the last 2 years of school. But the reward was you had success, all right? I represented my country 6 times on world championship level. So, and that had something that gave you, from a life educational point of view, my baseline. Because, see, when you row a 2,000 meter race, you wring your ass out. You give everything you've got. You see, people sometimes shit themselves at the end because it's so exhausting, because the life self-survival as a mechanism sets in.
Right.
And that's what you do. And that to me was, as I said, absolutely inspiring. But then, so through that, and that's where even, you know, like then when you learn later in life, and I quote Miyamoto Musashi, who was a samurai, a ronin, who said, learn one thing and know 10,000. Learn one thing absolutely 100%, and you know everything else too, because the principles are the same. And early in my life, you're reaping in seeds. You know what I mean? Like all I do is sowing seeds, but you reap them in. They come into you, knowingly or unknowingly, and eventually then they sprout. And that's what I find so inspiring. That I mean, when you see that certain things start to click, you know.
That rings very true. That's why we keep saying the answers are in plain sight.
Yeah.
Intent and, you know, emotion. Just focus on what you want to get done.
And you see that's when, and through the rowing, then, although, you know, when I was fairly successful on it, I never became a world champion. But you see, it's like, it's not the goal you set yourself to reach. It's the journey to the goal is what educates you. Right. You know, because I mean, yes, many championships, and I mean, I did make a silver medal at once, and so on and so on. That all, but you see, it's like Usain Bolt. He was born as a 100-meter champion. Yeah, of course, he put all the work in and all that, but I can't be a 100-meter champion. I can't run that fast, but he can. You understand? So once you actually got that level of expertise and you got the talent, everything is naturally. And it comes naturally. So, you know, I don't put, and that's where even winning this and winning that, and you get awed by, oh, what did you do? This? Yeah, but there was nothing special. We just did it because we were able to do it, because we had the talent, we put the work in, and it happens. So, you know, as much as I admire a lot of people, but and I respect them, but it's knowing that it's like with fasting. The more you do it, the better you become. So it's not that you have to, and if you never do it, then you're always in awe. Oh, how did you do this? But once you actually do it, and once you get to it and get to it and get to it, then you understand it's a process that gets you to where you are. And I think that's very important. You know, that, again, that thing. So, yeah, so that was the upbringing with, obviously then from a food point of view, you know, as I said, and then going into rowing where you needed the right nutrition. And I could even feel that at the time that we're not doing the right thing. Eating all this meat, eating all this carbs, eating all this stuff. I don't know, you know, like, but you couldn't put it another way around because there was no other information available. And unfortunately in Switzerland, the system was based on, if you were a good individual, you were supported. So meaning, I wasn't the best rower either, but I was very devoted and determined. So I beat a lot of other people just because I wanted to and I needed to. And then when that's when I understood and I took that further in life is we didn't have a system. See, Switzerland, they can't find their ass with both hands in the row, okay? But that's okay. If you're a good individual, you can achieve and you have that talent. It's like Usain Bolt. He would have ran fast right from the word go, you see? And then people, oh, he's good, and we'll look after him. But when you actually see that a system can develop people, like in MFS, a system develops you. A system helps you to get somewhere, and you follow the system, and you believe in the system, then it awakens you. And we never had that, unfortunately, you see? Yeah. And that's when I quit early my sporting career because I couldn't be bothered, because I even forced the club that was in to get a professional coach, and he was useless. And I told him that. I said, we keep doing the same thing and we get the same result. But the result is not what we should get. We should get further. So what are we going to do? Twiddle thumbs and do the same thing again and just scratch from here instead of there? It doesn't work. Anyway, see, to me, awakening, again, I had to leave the country, come to this country, and something profound happened. East Germany collapsed. Remember when the curtain came down east-west.
Yeah.
And the first thing that happens here in New South Wales, we had a new rowing head coach, and he was an East German, all right? And East Germany was dominating sports, and what he doesn't know in rowing is not worth knowing. So, and he came, and he had a program, and he said, here it is. Gave it to everybody. That's what we do. That's why we're so successful. And you know what it was? It was the simplicity of it. It was so simple to do, but you just had to go out there and do it. Go out there and row. And row in your certain heart frequencies and do this. And it was so simple. And we all thought they were all only drugged up champions, but they weren't. They put a lot of research into it. Yes, they tried drugs, but for rowing or an endurance sport, these days with EPO and all the rest of it, it's different. But at the time, they knew that we need talented people, and they had a talent identification system that they filtered through, and then they developed what they filtered through. And that gave them the success by doing the right thing. And when I applied that too, because I coached as well then. And I coached for this country, a couple of times I represented as well on World Championship level. So, and when you saw how simple it was, and that's why I even said to my athletes, I said, look, I'm not your best friend. I'm your coach. Learn to understand that. And do as I say, because you might not understand it now, but it will come to you. Later it will come to you. So just shut up now and just go and do it. Just don't worry about it. Don't worry about anything else. And it's all... And, within 2 years, I had world champions in the club. We had world champions in 1996 and 1997. So, and that's, obviously that then opens, you get then the trust of the people and so on. But I said, well, I haven't invented the system. I just follow it. I just see the simplicity of it. Yes, it's then how you apply too. That's another thing too. Of course it is. And that's where we see the variances, even in this group, when you see how people struggle. Mm-hmm. And struggle and have such problems with the most simple thing, and I think, how do you live? Why can't you understand the simplicity of it? But I understand that they don't, because I see it in my own family. I see it all around. And I think, well, common sense is not common, and we know that. So that's all there is, So for me, because obviously then leaving the country, coming into another country, that was a big step, but it wasn't really, because it was just, although I left when I was 26. If you would have told me that when I was 23, I would have thought you're stupid. I would never leave my country. But then it happens.
Did you leave on your own or your whole family?
No, just on my own. I had 8 boxes, packed up, gone. That's it. Because Europe was very, with East-West, you never knew, are they going to press buttons? You know what I mean? Like, it was so. And I traveled a few times into the Eastern countries, and you saw how poor they were. And, East Germany, they received the Western station better than their East station on television, and they saw what the Western people had. And then you go into that was in 1982, you go into their shops, and there was nothing. There was shelves empty. Twice a winter they have mandarins. Twice a winter. Wow. And you saw the poorness, and then they poured all this money into the sport. So sports people weren't actually very liked in East Germany, because they got all the privileges, but the normal population didn't get that. So there was, so East-West, and the pollution. I don't know. When did you migrate, Gino?
I was born in Toronto.
Oh, you were. Yeah. So I tell you, I can't believe, I was only 10 years old, and when the oil crisis happened, and we had Sunday free driving, and we had all sorts of restrictions, and you could see that from a pollution point of view that we're doing everything wrong, and that escalated and kept going and kept going. In 1982, I was driving to training, and there were all the forests in Eastern Europe were dying because of the acid rain. because we made chimneys 400 meters high, just to, yeah, well, it doesn't fall right next to it, but yeah, it's goes somewhere else, you know. But all this short-sightedness and all this stupidity, and I could not believe, because I was very, pro-nature, and I wanted to change the world, and, you know, like we all do, and so on and so on. And I wanted to actually migrate into to an island with another couple of guys, you know, just get away from everything, because I could never see this is not going to end well. It can't. This whole consumption, this whole materialism, even at the time, I said, this is completely wrong. We've got this ass way up, you know what I mean? Like, this is not. And what did the Swiss government do with all the acid rain and all that? Glorious. They reduced the speed on the freeway from 130 down to 120. That's glorious. That saves the whole forest, you know what I mean? Like, that willful ignorance, you know, like, how much can you take? How much do you want to? Think about yourself, how much willful ignorance that you do on your own. And then you see whole countries and the whole globe does it. Willfully head in the sand, ass up, we don't want to, we can't see anything, so that's it, we just don't do it. And that really bothered me, because then Chernobyl came and all the rest of it, so you could see that we are doing things that we can't even manage. Right. You know, like, we can't manage. We went to nuclear power stations. You could see how, I was very mechanically orientated, because I'm a truck mechanic by trade. I'm a mechanic. And even in my young ages, I pulled little mopeds apart and all that. And I could see this technology is not controllable. We can't control this. Why are we doing this? But, you know, you ask questions and, shut up. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is. So, anyway, so when I came here in 1986 first and rode a season with my brother here in Sydney, and I saw another life, and then I wanted to go. I wanted to leave Europe. That was clear. So I rang Greenpeace. Yeah, Greenpeace was big then. And you know what they said? I rang them 3 times. Oh, just send us money. I said, no. I'm a mechanic. I can go to Africa. I can go anywhere. I can do this and can do that for you, and I want to do that. Oh, no, Hanspeter, it's much better if you just donate a few dollars, you know. You know, I mean, you can see that even Greenpeace, even, you know, environmental protection agencies and all these, why haven't they, think about it, if we're really serious about something, why haven't they got more political power than what they have, really? Think about it. And that's another thing that I saw. Why aren't all the parliaments in the world like green? You know, like, we just had elections and the Green got 1 seat in the thing. I mean, Ranji can attest to that. We're all worried about the environment. Well, why don't we have political whole system that is based on environment? Don't do that. It's in the way of capitalism. Anyway, so to me, so there were a lot of things that made me go here. And it is not just because of, as I said, the hopelessness that I saw, that I can't change the world. I can only change myself. That came to me. And how am I going to do that? Well, then, of course, then you fall in love, you get married, you have kids, you have this and you have that. So you're right back into the cycle of our society, you know what I mean, in a capitalist way. And when I understood, I mean, I had some very, very good books that I had in 1986 and 1988 that I took with me. I even had, there was a book that Ronald Reagan did, Global 2000, you know, when you had all these scientists writing a book, a big thing of the future in 2000, what the future brings in 2000. And Ronald Reagan never got the book because the scientists said, look, it takes far longer than just a couple of years to do this. So eventually when it came out, he was gone. But it was so bleak. And that's our comprehension and our way of our thinking, that when you looked at the summary of it, it was a catastrophe is waiting to happen. But that's because we like to see white and black, white and black, white and black. Where it never happens, really, you know what I mean? It's never as white and it's never as black as what we think it will be. So it's always somewhere in between. But the point was that I actually bought around 100 books of that and gave them to all my friends. I said, well, you'll read this and we'll see what comes. 30 years later, 40 years later, I mean, we're still consuming, we still have, we're so good in managing to get away with things, but we're moving further and further, yeah, over the cliff. And there'll be a point of no return. And I mean, I think we've reached that point already when you look at all different things that are happening in this world. So it was very, for me, even at the time, very clear. But then, as I said, through the phase of starting my own businesses here in Australia, and the time you devote, you know, yourself, how you just get trapped in so many things all the time, that it's very hard to, as I said, find yourself again, you know what I mean? And that's, I mean, because even through the sport, because I mean, you know, the devotion that I had for the sport that I did made me then, yeah, leave it, because I started to build rowing boats here in Sydney. And I did that for 14 years. And it was the wrong thing to do, see? Because once I understood that the markets here is already taken and it's very hard to, you can always make a living with things, but it's not to thrive on it. It wasn't possible. And at the end, then I had the opportunity to get actually boats built in China. And I took that path as well. So I went over to China. But then, because, how should I say? People on the Rolls Royce, they want to pay nothing for it. And you can't do that, you know. You can't make a silk purse out of a pig's ear. It's not possible. And you try that, and also and so on. And then, as I said, I shut the business down in 2002 and started something else, but with China, the network of China. And because here in Australia, we just don't, like, unlike, you know, North America that has a big market, we don't have the market here. We don't have the people here to do a lot of things. But once I saw in China what they did in 20 years, it's mind-boggling. It is unbelievable. But anyway, so that's a bit of the personal side. But see, in the 2000s, then, I mean, after I've coached and finished my coaching, then working and using and abusing life, then time came when my father-in-law passed away, you know, and he was an alcoholic, and he died of side effects of pharmaceutical medication. And my mum, who then also always nagged me, always complained. She had pains this, pains that, couldn't do this, couldn't do that, and so on and so on. But funny enough, twice in her life, through her psychic, she actually fasted herself down to 37 kilos. Wow. You know? So she was normally around 70 kilos, so she went down to 37 kilos. And I said to her on her 80s, I said, Mum, that's why you're still alive, because you actually cleaned out. You didn't know that, but that's what it is. You actually cleaned out a lot of shit that was in you. You filled it up with the same crap. That's unfortunate. And you haven't changed your mind. And that's something I can't help you, because you can only do it yourself. So, but that was something that she really did, you know, and she made it out of protest, because in one time, it was in 2009, everybody went, my brother lives in New Zealand. So we all made an effort to go down to New Zealand, but she couldn't, because she couldn't travel with all her illnesses. So she in protest started to, yeah, play up on us, just that somebody had to stay or go back to her. I mean, you can relate that with your own mother. I'm sure you can.
She's still in Sweden?
Yeah. What was that?
She's still in Sweden?
No, in Switzerland, yeah.
Switzerland,
yeah.
sorry. Switzerland.
Yeah, she's still in Switzerland, yeah. No, she's still in the same place, you know. And I mean, she's in a retirement village. But I'm saying, so that really made me aware, like when she hung herself down, she really did that just for attention, that I'm going to die, you have to now come back to me, you know what I mean? So her cries for help were like that way, you know. And she admitted herself into psychiatric clinic, you know, while we were away and all that. And you could see how, she said, see, that's what I'm saying. Then I looked into it and went on the internet, and within 2 hours, Mum, there's answers there. And I went from there. It was about alkalizing, you know what I mean? Because I knew that she had an acidic lifestyle, and she was always after alkaline water. She said, oh, what about the water? Shouldn't I be? So I said, okay, all right, here we go. So information galore, and I got on to, obviously, Robert Young, and I had answers. Not only had I answers for her, but I had answers for myself too. Then I said, hang on, but if it's that simple, and it is simple, well, why don't I do that as well? And here I go, you know what I mean? So within 6 months, I had, like, I'll show you here, because I did then blood microscopy, okay? That was my blood in 2008, 2009, and 2010. And that's like etiology. It's nothing else than looking at things in your body, and all you can see is unhealthy and healthy. That's all I look at. Because yes, there's a lot of explanation, a lot of this, like etiology, like palm reading, like hair analysis, like you name it, you know all of them. Gino, I don't. And I don't want to know. Because all I know, once I do, is how do I get away from it? How do I change it? But people don't want to hear that. When I say, look, you get from here to here, but changing your diet, would you believe? Just don't do that no more. Oh, I can't do that. Same with Mum. So I said to her, Mum, so I've got my own microscope here. See, that's why I've got my own little laboratory. Haven't used it though for. I did another one in May. Because people come to me, can you have a look? I said, nah. Well, how you live? Are you eating meat, dairy products, carbs, all that? Don't worry about it. You've got unhealthy blood. No need to, here, that's your blood. That's what it is. Don't worry about it. Because at the end of the day, I'm wasting my time. You know, for you, it's nice to have that, but then you go home and do the same thing again. What do you want to do? What do you want me to do about that? You know, like I can't, at the end, the answers are so plain in sight and nobody does it.
Right.
And that's the hardest thing. See, in my own family, with the whole world. So, yeah, you can only help yourself. That's all you can do.
Many generations of programming, it's very difficult to change.
So that's a frustrating thing, because although then, you see, when I went on the alkaline, the same as you, because we've got a hell of a lot of similarities, and because of the devotion that I know, because you see, that's another thing. When you want to do something into real details, into real, like I did with my rowing, then I know how extreme that I can be and go to, you know what I mean? Like, yes, no, stuff all that. No, only that. So then I've learned, then I understand, because everything is about balance at the end of the day. If you're not balanced, the coin has always two sides, always. It falls to one side or the other side. So you can be too acidic, yeah, great. And you can be too alkaline, that's great. And that's exactly what happened with me. So I shifted all the way. And I could not, I fell asleep, when I started to fall asleep, I suffocated. I thought I was going to die because everything slowed down so much, you know. So from a glucogenic state, I got into a ketogenic state. I was done. I was, honestly, I was gone up. I said, I can't breathe no more. I'm like, so, and then because I did blood microscopy, because see, when I started, I said, how do I check this? How do I check this? How can I see results? So obviously looking at your live blood and your dry blood, yes, it gives you an instant showing of what's going to happen. So as I say, these first 3 tests I did with a guy down in Melbourne. And then I said, hang on, what he can do, I like to have here so I can check it all the time. You know what I mean? Like, so I made that investment, did this, and it helps. I mean, it does help, I have to say. It really does. So I then shifted into it. But then, as I could see, this is, yeah, you keep alkalizing, yeah, that's okay. I know, you know, drinking 6 litres of water, alkaline water, high alkaline water, yeah, that's great for a certain amount of time, but then, yeah, it goes on the other side. And I felt that, and I had that experience. So then I must say I went back to Chicago and did another course with another guy. Then I learned you either rust or you rot. So there's your two sides. You know, like in your body, we rot or we rust. So we have not enough oxygen or too much oxygen. So you're oxidizing, you're rusting. You ding. So that was something that really made profound sense to me, and I understood that I have to shift to balance. The only problem is what I've learned, not the problem, but that the fact was all symptoms you have can be then measured and can be figured out, and then you have to go into supplementation. So you have to take supplementation such and such to work from that to that, and then you have to work from that to that, and then you have to measure again, and then you have to measure again. Oh, very scientific based, highly scientific based, you know, but absolutely fantastic. But when after the course I came home, and I was very taken by it. But I said, but Hanspeter, that's not really the truth either, is it? Because all these supplementations, I got to now buy 50 million supplementations for your alkaline side and your acidic side, and then mix match and figure, and it's a test sheet, you know what I mean? A test sheet. 30, 40 tests and measurements you can take on your body, and then you do this and do that. Okay. Makes all sense. But not very natural, is it? So then, because through the networking then, and even look, don't get me wrong, all these guys, I mean, that I have to say, and that's the same with you, that first thing they said, don't believe a word we say, because you go and test it and question everything. Don't take anything for granted that we say. Because the only way that you can learn is, remember, I can explain it to you, but can't make it understand. So you got to learn to question. Only when you question things, you learn to understand, and it opens up your channels. And I did that. So I questioned and questioned. And one of the answers was natural. Go to nature. So I read a book of natural farming, or it was called The One Straw Revolution. Masanobu Fukuoka, Japanese farmer. In the 1930s, he was a plant pathologist in Japan, in Fukuyama. Mm-hmm. And he had an awakening at 25. He says, this is all totally wrong. We're doing all these modifications on plants, even in the 1930s, because he was working with a microscope. And he said, that's all completely wrong. So he went back home. His old man gave him an orchard in the rice field. And then he did nothing. He did natural farming. He started natural farming. And everything else, all the permaculture and all that, it really, really is very much based on him. And when you see that he did never plowed a field, never used herbicides, never fertilized, never did anything, he did the do nothing philosophy. And what he achieved was miraculously, and that was getting nature back. He says, it's not that I'm not doing anything, but I'm not standing in the way of nature no more. I just can assist nature, but not standing in the way. Because he didn't want to out, no, I'll get another graft of rice. And he says, that's all done by nature. We don't have to do all that. Why don't we? And he had such an outstanding success because he did dry field rice. He grew on dry fields because everybody else had wet fields. Mm-hmm. So he did it on dry fields because he just let nature take its course. And nature repaired itself. So within his lifetime, he died in 2008. His soil grew from nothing, fertile soil, to over 1 meter deep by him doing nothing, by just putting the straw back, shaking out the rice, put the straw back in it, and plant the next seed, and so on and so on. Anyway, fantastic book, and opened up the mind to me, hey, natural farming.
Autopilot.
Yeah. And he then had lots of professors and scientists coming to him, looking at his fields. Oh, because you haven't got such bug and such bug. Why is that? He says, because I don't have, because I let nature take this course. Why don't you stay here for 6 months and see actually what happens here? Then you understand that all what you're doing under the microscope and in your textbooks, it doesn't get us anywhere. It doesn't. Let nature take its course, and then you will understand. And he had always students that lived in little huts on his side that came to learn of him how you do this. But he says, well, I don't have to teach. I mean, he had, he got his philosophy, and it's an outstanding, honestly. He wrote 3 or 4 books, and the last one he wrote was Sowing Seeds in the Desert. But then he was invited all around the world, and once he first came onto an aeroplane, he flew, and he could not believe what damage mankind has made to nature. You know, when he saw certain like desertification of areas, and he said, that's all wrong. Anyway, so for me, when I wrote this book, read this book, then I had one question. I said, hang on, but that's for agriculture. Because he told us, he said in his books, mankind has to go back to agriculture. All we do is completely mad. Our lifestyle is based on agriculture. We got to live off the land. You got to learn to live off the land. That's what we got to do. That's what we're here for, and that's what we got to do. So then I said, hang on, but that's natural farming. Well, how about in nature? Bang, Arnold Ehret. So that was in 2014 or 15. And funny enough, I tell you now, I actually had a book of his in my 8 boxes. Rational fasting in German. I didn't know, but I grabbed them, yeah, when I left, I went to did this and bought this, and that was one of the books I bought. Never read it though, and now I've lost it somewhere. I can't find the bastard. But it was funny. I had it. And it's just something then when you understood, when you read Arnold Ehret, and what more do you want to know? What more do you want to know? I mean, it's not, yes, of course, it comes a bit to interpretation, but let nature take its course.
Exactly.
And not the madness of men, you see? And that madness is so, like, how should I say, profound that, you know, like, for me, I can't, like, I just had, I'm so fed up with all that. And that's why I don't, like, it's just like to be in nature and with nature to be able to charge yourself up and to regenerate. But it is very hard because you're trapped, you see? Like, not trapped, you have a system around you that makes it very hard actually to be with it. In your own family, it's hard, you know what I mean? When you discuss this, and of course there's always a way, okay, I'm out of here, gone, yeah, and go and do this. And there's examples of people that do this, but as I said, comes a bit to morals, integrity. You got family, you want to look after this, want to look after that. So that's why you can see that a fasting system or a lifestyle system that is based on natural. And all I try to do is sowing more seeds, and as I said, try to get away from all of this and get myself out of this city and get myself into an environment where, yeah, what to expect from it. And that's where I'm really open and like to discuss that with all of you as well, you know, of how people think, what is beneficial, or what is you can't say what is right to do, because my right is my way and your right is your way. And for the correct way of right, there is no such thing for me. There is no such thing. But we can't disobey. And one thing we can't disobey is nature. That's what we can't disobey. We really have to stick, and that's where the truth is. That's where all the answers are. But unfortunately, in nature, there ain't no whiteboard in the bush. There ain't no whiteboard in the forest. No laptop hanging there telling you something. It's not written on somebody's forehead, you know what I mean? I'm acidic or whatever. No, it isn't. So you have to find it out yourself. But only through families like we are able to gather that. Or Arnold Ehret to gather that. Unfortunately, he died, very early in the case. That's a tragedy, but that's the way it is. But you can see how his book has manifested itself through the decades, and without change, without this, without that, because it's not even him writing the story; it's nature writing the story. And that's what I'm saying. What I say is, and that's what I, face it. That's what I face every day. So how do I do this? How do I stay connected to nature? And that's when you see that you like, even for me, remember my best friend. Who is my best friend? I see him every morning in the mirror. Every morning I look at him and say, here you are. So what am I going to do today? Are we stuffing it up, or are we doing a bit better? So see, that's where I see that you got to respond. The honors are completely on you, not to anybody else. It's around you. So if you're not doing it, well, who else is going to do it for you? And don't try to do it for somebody else. You got to do it on your own. And that's when you say, yes, you can. Then even if, through conversations, you very quickly, I can see, oh, well, I'm wasting my time here because they're not listening, or they're not. And so all you try to do is sow some seeds and try to get people into like if they think about it, but then they don't. And then I say, oh, well, that's okay. You got to do what you got to do. I got to do what I got to do. You know what I mean? And that's why, it becomes, how should I say, a daily challenge. You know what I mean? To see what we do, so many things wrong, and then you see what is then the right way to do this. You know what I mean? And I don't have all answers. I can only look for myself. And that's all I can do in that way. You know what I mean? So that's how I see things, through So coming back to the fasting stuff. So in 2014, then with Masanobu Fukuoka, with Arnold Ehret, and obviously Arnold Ehret was a water faster. So I thought, oh, well, that's the way it is. So I go a bit on water fasting. So you see old people that do water fasting. So I go into water fasting, and that's a harsh thing to do, very harsh.
Yeah, he recommended some lemon and honey, right?
Yeah, I mean, I did. Yeah, very little of that actually. I did. I just water fasted, and the water fasting itself was actually, it come because let me say, I mean, I did through since 2008 when I went on my health journey, because of doing it like to the extremes. So I did juice fast quite a lot, and you did do a lot of cleansing mechanisms put in place that do clean you out, you know what I mean? But I wasn't in any health problem or anything when I started that, but it made sense, let's start, because Mum wouldn't do it. And that was frustrating because, not only that, because, I can't do anything for it because she's too far away. But through that then itself, I had a lot of things. And then also one thing that came to me was early when I went up and saw Robert at his place. And there was a colon hydrotherapist that did colon cleanses. Mm. So I did that. And that sort of made a difference. I did 3 in 1 week. And I thought that is actually something that I found beneficial. So coming back home, do my own machine. So I had my own little agriculture machine and started colon cleansing. And it was funny what happened. When I started doing that, that's a speculum. Mm-hmm. And my first speculum I used, because I obviously reuse it. I mean, like, I know column hydrotherapists, they throw it out after one use because of hygienic reasons. But when you do your own thing, then you just wash it and it's okay. Mm-hmm. It started to stain. It stained because of the use. So it stained. And after around, I don't know, after a year, it was very stained. So anyway, I chucked it out and took the second one. And it stained less. So I kept that for another year and then I chucked it out. Now this one is now 4 years old and has not a stain on it. That to me just in itself said, hang on, I got rid of things in here that actually stuck to walls and stuck to things that actually do damage. But when you actually have a clean speculum over and over, well, then you know that, hang on, something is clean, all right? And that's, again, that's your natural and normal, that's experience that I've had. And that to me was changing, you know what I mean? So I knew I'm on the right track here. So I'm getting cleaner and cleaner on my backside. Because obviously what you put through the top as well, that's, but it was, and that's why, you know, like, I don't know, you lose counting how many colon cleansers I've done. That's why I've done enemas a few times, but I mean, once you have your own apparatus, you know, like you just basically screw up, you know, I've got my own bench, like a little massage table, and you screw yourself on, you put yourself on the table, and it's actually quite therapeutic, I have to say, you know, like you put a bit of, you know, essential oils, you get a bit of aroma in gear and so on and so on. And I find that very, 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 very nice to do. So that's something that I did on my own and have never looked back, you know what I mean? So I can only, as I said, washing out is something that is very, very beneficial, very beneficial. So from that point of view, I can only highly recommend that. You know what I mean? So that's, that was something that I really, learned and made a profound difference. So going then from in 2015, going through the water fasting, and as I said, I didn't have a lot of healing reactions. The only thing that was really, really bothering me was when I came off a water fast, diarrhea galore. I mean, like the first time I couldn't hold for 3 weeks. I had diarrhea for 3 weeks. And it doesn't matter what I did, it just came out. But I saw the good thing on it, because, I mean, it's better out than in. Whatever has to come out, you know. So it was very harsh on the body, and so on and so on. And when I then got on to MFS, obviously, in 2017, you know, like, it's like you're reading a God-blessed thing, you know what I mean? You think, holy shit, why hasn't anybody come with that earlier, you know what I mean? Like, why, you know what I mean? Like, so it just was that particular thing that edged through, you know what I mean? Like, it just, well, okay, well, that's it, you know what I mean? Like, because even with water fasting and then the lifestyle, which, think about it, the way that Arnold Ehret described it in all his books and all his writings, it was based on the 20th century, early 20th century, you know what I mean? So, and yes, we do change and we do adapt and we do this and we do, so there's still a lot of unanswered questions and unanswered this, unanswered that, and then obviously he died. So I'm sure if he would have gone through further and gone into an old age, there would have been other books and other things, writings coming out. But as I said, the thing is, and that then really with MFS, that what helped me and made such a change is the clarity. I mean, clarity with water fasting, yes. I mean, like the 3 o'clock in the morning awakening and you think, I have no problems in the world. I really don't have any problems in the world. It's the clarity that comes along. It's just profound. It's just, it blows you away, you know. I even once I woke my wife up and said, I can't believe what I just see and what I experience here, you know what I mean? That clarity of it. And that's something that only triggered more and more with MFS. That through cleaning out, because, I mean, obviously with having and again, the simplicity of it I like. For me, see, the grape juice or the fruits is your detergent. It washes you out. It really does. It dissolves everything and it lets the body let it run out. Where your vegetables is your broomstick, you know, your broom out, you know, whatever it is, you have more because with all the cellulose and all the rest of it, that to me makes I keep it simple. If I want to wash out, have your fruits and have your, you know, not so much juice, but just the fruits. But in a fast MFS, obviously with the grape juice and the lemon juice and the field strength and all of that, you know, I don't understand all that. And a lot of people struggle with that. I understand. But for me, it's just simple. It's just so simple. It is so, I don't understand. What's so hard? You know, like, why do you ask this question 5 times? Why don't they just do something and let the experience talk to you? You know what I mean? But I understand. Everybody's different. It's all good with me. And when you have these two things that they came in, as I said, then it's really just the balance of it. See, and then you know yourself then how you get trapped then into heavy foods again or into the wrong foods again. So that's all a part of MFS that I see with alkalizing. When you alkalize, when you just alkalize, then you basically just, you know, like putting this kind of minerals into you, which then destructive. They become destructive. And I say very simple. Men say, oh, what's the difference then between alkaline and acidic? I said, well, you think about your battery acid. You put a drop of battery acid on your skin, what happens? Burns a hole, doesn't it? Digs it out. Now you take your paint stripper, which is highly caustic, your peroxides, you put that on it. What happens? It burns. But what does actually happen? What does with the paint stripper happens? It lifts it. It lifts it off. It's the opposite. It doesn't go in, it lifts it off. So it doesn't matter on which side you are, a damage is going to happen. If it doesn't burn a hole into you, well, it lifts the skin off, it lifts the tissue off, and that's what happens. When you use the alkaline drops and put on your skin, and it lifts the skin off. It's as simple as that. So even that is so simple. So where do you have to be? Do I have to be acidic or do I have to be alkaline? Well, you have to be in the middle. That's where you need. But to walk the path on the middle, it's like the edge on the knife. How easy it is to fall off, to go this way or that way. So all you're going to do is fall off the edge and climb back on and keep going. As we know how hard it is to do everything every day correct, impossible. Impossible. But once you know the edge you're on, and I like that, I want to be on the edge. I want to be, I balance myself here. Yeah, that's great. That's great. And you can keep on that path, you know what I mean? And I think that's something that is a challenge because, again, through the sport, through the dedication, through knowing how to devote yourself is something that you then just have to do. One thing though, and I think it's great when it came up with the 108 days, you know, like, why these 108 days? And why so long? I say true. See, when I look back and I see how I've strenuously and have wrung myself out in sport, and I could only achieve that not by one training session going for 20 hours. It's one session after another session. What you continuously do is where you reap continuously success. So it's the small steps that get you to Mount Everest. It's not that the giant leap. But from an educational point of view, please do so. Please do your long sessions because that's what we did. Sometimes we rode 60 Ks. We were done. But it was an educational process. It was going through it.
Exactly.
So I know that more does, for me, this is again my own personal opinion. 108 days is something that is great to take the challenge and run with it and do it. For people that haven't experienced a lot of that stuff, and some of them haven't, they have never challenged themselves in life personally, we have challenges by society, how to make a living, how to pay bills, how to do this. Yeah. Have children. But that's all natural. But challenging yourself. Become the best stamp collector in the world. Do that. That's a challenge. Be the best, whatever, chess player. That's a challenge. So challenge yourself. And I think that's great because you have that. You've got the 108 days there, you see? And you know. For me, as I said, with having gone through all these phases, I love, and one day I will do the 108 days, no doubt about it. But it's just something that I find so much more like, I find results. I mean, at the end, think about it. It's all about your own results that you can actually enjoy. And I think that when I do all the fasts that I've done, they have got me so much joy and success. Whoa. And I find the most success is when you come off it. You know what I mean? On it is one thing, but off it is where then the real thing happens. And as I said, and obviously as I said, for me, not eating is the real, not a challenge, it's the real thing to do, you know what I mean? And that's why this drawing here, you know what I mean? Like when you look at the breatharian, which is near a tree trunk, you're rooted back to where you come from, source. So all that, I know it's for a lot of people not easy to understand because you have to go through the process. And that's the same that I'm saying. If I know what it feels like doing a rowing race, a 2,000 meter race. If you've never done it, if you never have really wrung your ass out like that, you can't, it's like driving a bike. How do you can read about it, you can talk about it, but until you actually sit on it and go for it, you don't know. That's as simple as it is. And that's, again, something that I have trying to live by, you know what I mean? Because, see, the other thing is then people come and tell you, and on the MFS side, what is right, what is wrong, and then the proof, how much proof do you want? And remember, there's 4 levels of proof. And I've learned it of Dr. Lustig. Remember Robert Lustig? He's a pediatrician. Oh, my man, because he's at the war on sugar. He's got the war on sugar. He lives in California. Fantastic bloke. Completely science. And they can't wipe him off the table because he actually scientifically can tell them that they're wrong and he's right. He can go to any court and he says, the reason why they don't wipe me off the table is because they can't, because I know everything. Anyway, so he explained to me, very simple, the 4 levels of proof. And I think that's so simple. You have your anecdotal proof. That's a story. That's you. I tell Steve, Ranji, Susan, I tell you a story. And I tell it so well that you think, he's good. I think this is right, What proof have I got? None. My story. That's what it is. And a lot of our stories are anecdotal. It's all it is. It's a story of a person. That's the level of proof, number 1. Number 2, correlation. Remember? You correlate. Drownings in summer increase, and so does ice cream consumption. So I'm saying that when you consume ice cream, you have a higher chance of drowning. I can correlate that. But that's not quite correct. Because the 2 causes of higher ice cream consumption and drowning is the temperature of the sun. So you see, so you can't correlate directly between ice cream consumption and drowning, but the causation for both is the sun. Because highest temperature, people eat more ice cream. High temperature, people go more to the beach, so more drownings happening. That's correlation. Our whole law system is based on correlation. Think about it. The better a lawyer can correlate, the more success he will have in court, because he bamboozles you with correlation. He can make you believe that drownings are caused by ice cream consumption if he correlates it well enough. And that is the 2nd level of proof. So anything I read, I always think, what level of proof is this here? Just for my own interest. Because then I say, it's just an anecdotal bullshit, so it's just a story. Or I see here, he correlates very well. But there's no causation. 3rd level of proof. causal inference. I had to read that up. Causal inference is a system where Bradford Hill, they put in the 60s criteria out of causation, of where you make correlation, not only correlation, the way you look at the cause and the effect result, but there's criteria you have to fulfill to go through the stages of a causal flow. And that I read strength, consistency, specificity, temporality, biological gradients, plausibility, coherence, experiment, analogy. Hell of a lot of things, which means you have to prove that what is the relation, the causal relationship between the sun temperature and your ice cream consumption, or the sun temperature and something. So there's a lot of criteria. So it becomes very complex. Not interested very much, but that's what it is. Third level of proof. Happens a lot. People do that actually a lot, and on the scientific level. And then you got your fourth level of proof, and that's scientific proof. That's your triple blindfolded, randomized placebo testing. All right, where then you have a whole scenario of different this and different that. Knowing that only 10% of all medical studies have actually scientific proof. And to this day, we don't have proof that smoking causes lung cancer. There ain't no scientific proof. Why? Scientific proof is very unethical and very expensive. Because if you want to prove that smoking causes lung cancer, you have to kill a hell of a lot of people knowingly that you're going to kill them to prove that it causes it. So it's very unethical. That's why it's not done very much, because of, and obviously out of, so the tobacco industry still these days can actually claim that smoking does not cause lung cancer. But then the question comes, have you got enough proof? Isn't there enough anecdotal correlation and causal inference proof that it actually does? Do you really need scientific proof? No. Go into the hospitals, go and see these emphysema awards, and then have all this and all the associated. If you want more, but I need scientific proof for that. And then we have scientific proof. And then what do people do? Oh, I'm not doing it anyway. They keep smoking, you know? Like, the World Health Organization in 2015 had a report out that red meat is carcinogenic. Has anything changed? Have you seen butchers shutting down? No, I haven't. Well, the Health World Organization, which is dictated by our whole world system, but they even said that. And nobody's going to change. You understand? That's the hardest thing. So I see all these 4 levels of proof, and are you going to change? I've got scientific proof for you. No. Why? Because I tell you, it's what you, whatever makes you comfort, whatever gives you comfort is what you stick by. Whatever is uncomfortable, you don't want to know about it. The truth is uncomfortable. They don't want to know about it. And if you know that, we've seen this on a daily basis on the MFS. People want to have comfort.
Right.
But that the change for comfort has to come within yourself, and you've got to change your, like adapt your taste buds and adapt your thinking. That's what really has to happen. And that's not going to happen because you have to actually let go. Remember? You know, like let go of your ego, let go of your emotions, and let go of all your lifestyles and change that. And that's something that, as you said, all the time, only a few people are willing to do that. Simple as that. So that's a little bit of my thing. Coming to it, when I went into MFS, so in 2017, when I started in April, and obviously for me, it was easy to get straight into it, into a rhythm. And then, as I said, I did, 35 days or so, my first one it was. Did I see a profound change yes, from a clarity point of view, and from what really got me was the lifestyle, that I knew now I have something that I can stick by for good. I mean, for me, like with all the hybrids and all this and all that, you're giving me far too many options. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, it's just too much. I mean, it's how much would you like? You know what I mean? Like, but that's okay, because as you said, you have a clientele that is out there that needs all that diversification and a bit of this and a bit of that. But at the end of the day, I mean, like, as I said, once you're on your health journey, you understand that, hey, I don't need all of that and I don't need all of that. It's okay. Stick with your simplicity. The simpler, the better. Don't make it complicated, because that's when when you complicate everything, it just runs you in circles. You know what I mean? And that's something that I don't really like, being run in circles. And so that's why I stuck to the very simple basics. All right. At the beginning, I didn't have the tinctures. But that's another thing that I have for the group is, for me, see, like I said to you, now certain things when you run through your own health process and going through it, the tinctures, to me, I've never felt that they made a change. You know what I mean? Like a profound change. I could not, because, and I'll tell you why, because I started off with my own little selection I had, and did them, and then your stuff arrived, and then I did that, and I couldn't. But I know that it's part of it, and it is an essential thing of having. But unlike a colon cleanse, or like the combination of grape juice, lemon juice, you know what I mean, that has for me a real good washout effect. I could not ever really have, and I know that other people have fantastic results with it, but it's just somehow in my body, I could never feel the difference in it. You know what I mean? Like that it really made, because then I went to, from the 4-star, I went to the 9 Divine, and I added a couple of extras, I think, for myself. So I could not, that's something, not, and I mean, you go with the system and you run it, but I can't. I could never feel 100% that there was a risk, like, because normally when you're empty, when you're dry fasting, and even when you're dry fasting, and I mean when you just take little tinctures and you suck them through, as nice as I love the taste. I mean, people hate them. I love them. I think it's great. I mean, for me, it's just the explosion, you know what I mean, that happens, and I can't believe that people have, I mean, it's hard to take. I said, I'll have the shot any day, twice any day of the week, and twice on Sunday. I don't mind that at all, because of its, it makes it, it's very palatable. Same as with the pudding, like some people have a hell of a lot of trouble with the pudding. Man, best thing ever, you know what I mean? Like, I have never had any challenges or any issues with that. But I understand. I mean, it's as I said, everybody's different, and that's what we have. You have to deal with. But as I said, that's just from a tincture point of view.
Did you feel the effect of the tincture more when you were dry fasting?
Yeah. Look, I mean, obviously there is a little bit of difference in it when you dry fast, and with the dry fast, I have to say also I love the daily, just the 16, 18 hours, 20 hours sometimes where you fast. I haven't done a 5-day yet, you see. And that's, again, because I'm enjoying, just working my way in, because you do have a lot of interruptions a lot of times. And see, that's where I don't go that extreme anymore. I mean, now, obviously, as you get older, look, the world wasn't made in one day, so let's just take it easy and just not like, we don't have, as I said, I don't have to claim certain things anymore like other people wanted to do. You know what I mean? Because once you have gone through a lot of determination and devotion, then hey, it's not life threatening if I don't have it or don't, is it? But that's why I haven't actually done the dries. But as I said, I've done up to, I think, 72. I've definitely done 3 days. That's easy. But I have never stretched it out, because that's another thing that I wanted to do, you know what I mean? Like, but I think it'll come to me, you know what I mean? It just comes to you when it's right. And as long as you keep chipping away, I find that chipping away is far more success to me than just being really obsessed about, I need to be up there. I need to go and do this. You know what I mean? I don't need to do nothing. I just have to live and have to experience that and have to absorb that. Then I can do whatever I want. You know what I mean? Yes, you can set yourself goalposts, you know what I mean? But they're always, you know, they shift, you know, and then you shift from here to there and that's it. But as I said, yes, I mean, the tinctures do have a different effect in the dry fast than when you just have them just within the fastings process, you know what I mean? But as I said, it never sort of, because I actually, when I thought of, this is great, because I always believed in herbs, because tell you why. My auntie, she grew through 2 world wars, okay? And when she came and visited us, and dad took her for a drive through the, do the scenery, to the countryside, so often she said, stop, 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 stop. She saw a flower field, went and picked the flowers, dried them, put them in alcohol. She says, that's what you're going to rub on. That's what all this natural stuff that they did. They didn't have medicine. So they had, one time we went through and she had this blue field of arnica flowers. And she was so absolutely beside herself that she saw so many of those, and she harvested them all. And we had around 5 or 6 bottles then, you know, of just with alcohol and these arnica flower butts. But Mum rubbed it on and it was sensational. So you could feel a difference when you had a bruise or whatever it was, that it made a huge difference to you. And that was something that, again, she was so inspiring from that point of view. We have completely lost that, you see. I mean, I do go out. I did that in 2012, started to live, you know, what weeds can you eat, you know, like out there. You know, your dandelions, your purslane, your chickweed, your all that. I've got to it, but you know, like you got to do that consistently. You know what I mean? I'm not consistent enough on stuff like that, and that's where I find I want to be far more into and want to really develop into that. Not so much. If I want to see where I live, I can't. Like a garden is like it's just a jaw. You know what I mean? You got to have a natural garden if you have enough space. But here I can go to bushlands and can find, because I did that for a while, and harvest edible stuff, greens, edible greens, all right? Or berries when they were on. And I think that, you know, looking back to what my auntie did, because going through very hard times and knew what they knew, I think that's something that is a very natural thing, and we should be doing far more of that. Because I then went down to Melbourne once to a guy called Adam Grubb. He was running a walk through in Melbourne on a creek side, and he showed you all the wild stuff that you can eat, you know, that free of charge. And I took the kids with me, all right? I was on a Saturday morning. I made it a surprise, and once they understood what we're going to do, they were so angry. And when we got there and we went through their bushwalk, 10 minutes later, they were back in the car asleep, you know. So that's how much it lasts. But to me, it made a lasting effect, because think about it. When you eat wild cabbage and you eat a chickweed salad with purslane, that is a complete different experience. And I think that is something that is far more, we should pursue far more in your own area where you're at, because you can. It grows right there. It's right there. And then it goes further, because then you got your herbs as well, and so on and so on. So that educational process is not in any way, form or shape practiced, you know what I mean? And I think that's very sad, but you can only do it for yourself, you see. And that's where even I got to pull myself on the nose and say, look, I've got to go and do this more, because I find that very inspiring, because once you know even your mushrooms and all the rest of it, you know, your berries, your barks you can eat, and so on and so on. There's a hell of a lot there that if you get into it and then think about it, While you're doing that, where are you? You're not on a computer at home. You're out there sucking in nature, you know what I mean? And you're living it because you're foraging. And I think that foraging is something that is very beneficial for you, because that would go hand in hand with the natural lifestyle that really we should be pursuing, you know, instead of chasing the mighty dollar, you're chasing your matey. Because like, how do we know when all this is coming? Like, how, like with our society, the thrive for progress, and that's another thing, you know, the thrive for progress and the thrive for the desire of being stimulated every day. Think about that for a moment. Every day we want to be stimulated, but we don't want to be stimulated by the same thing again. We want to have something new. You see, it's like your knowledge. Once your knowledge expands, you don't want to go back to what you knew. You want to know more and more and more. And I think that's the self-destructive thrive in us that'll destroy us eventually, and it does. Because think about where we came from, hundreds of thousands of years ago, and now where we are. And we think we have the right of progress, and we have the right of knowing more and more and more. But what does it get you? Where does it get you?
Yeah, if you look back at Arnold Ehret's time, when he was talking about how toxic people are with the drugs back then, which was when they just started.
Yeah.
And where we're at now, it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
The level of toxicity now is just way more than I ever thought it was, guiding thousands of people. And that's one of the main reasons why we use herbs. And they're working on the spirit more than they are on the physicality. And that's what most people miss. The spirit of the herbs. When you're connecting with in the fields and stuff, you're connecting with the spirit of the herbs. And that's why it's so therapeutic being in nature. No matter what, you know, anywhere in nature, it's just with the earth, with the trees, with the herbs, you know, it's just an awesome place to be.
Absolutely.
And you were talking about the juice, the fruit juices are more of the strippers, and the greens are more of the scrubbers. If you're looking at at these things in physicality, yeah, the fruit chemically is more of a cleaner, and the vegetables are more mechanical. Boom, like you said. I think I already mentioned that. But when you cook the juice, you're talking about a whole different thing, because we're bringing it to higher order, and this is where it doesn't matter that we don't understand it.
Interaction.
Yeah. I mean, look, with the whole plasma theory, and you know, I understand. I mean, I went through a few YouTube videos and to inform myself. But again, once you have essence, no need to go further. I know that, and in real terms, is it really necessary? You know, that's why I've just explained the 4 levels of proof. How much proof do I want? How much proof do I need? But I got to go and do it. You know what I mean? Instead of talking about it and procrastinating and making excuses, you got to do it. And at the end, I mean, look, even when it comes to the anatomy of yourself, like how many different theories are out there, you know? Like we can't, what's right and what's wrong. I think, and that's my very simple philosophy, my yardstick is nature. If it doesn't go back to nature, don't do it. If it's man-made, definitely don't do it, because it's only going to hold you away from nature, you see? And that's where all it comes down to is, even when I looked at MFS, you see, does it relate back to nature? Yes, it does. And it does it because of, you have your, and as I said, it's what you don't eat is what makes you healthy. It's not what you eat, it's what you don't eat. And that is really just as simple as writing on the wall. What you don't eat makes you healthy. Just live by that. Why do you need all this other explanation? Why do you need all these different proofs of this and proofs of that? What for? Because you're not going to do it anyway. I would love people if then they do it. Then we do everything in scientific proof. Are you going to do it then? No, you don't. You're lazy. You're just using excuses and all the rest of it. You're not hammering it down for yourself. You don't look in the mirror every day. And that's what it comes down to. Now then, this is, and all the differentiations, you know what I mean? This is like going hair splitting convention, you know what I mean? Like we're splitting hairs about what exactly? As I said, no whiteboards out there in nature. But if you bend over and pick a weed and you learn which weed can I eat and which not, man, that is education. That, and I said that to my kids, I said, look, you don't understand it, but you might be in your lifetime looking for weeds again. You never know. When certain things are going to happen, you never know what's around the corner, but you might be looking for weeds again. Simple as that. So, and as I said, you can't, I mean, look, comes back to, see, for me, questions that I'll ask them myself is, well, when did we leave a society? When did we leave nature, being balanced with balance in nature? Well, this country 250 years ago, the people that lived here, they were in balance with nature.
Yeah.
They were running around half naked and they were throwing boomerangs, but they were living in with nature. And we thought that we have to civilize these people. Well, yeah, we civilized them, all right. You know, like, I mean, that arrogance that white men had, that supremacy that went around, you know what I mean? That is just unexcusable. And when I see that the only way to live is like indigenous tribes have lived and do live. I mean, there's not many around because we've made sure we uproot them and we just civilize them, you know what I mean? We just turned our heads around, back away from nature, you know what I mean? And like when you see all these problems that, I mean, like I've even looked back in Europe, you know what I mean? I can't find indigenous cultures, a writing of indigenous cultures back in Europe. Because Europe was always, how should I say, dominate, like civilized, as we say, civilized. But when you see what they've done, what we've been, when the white men went out 500 years ago to conquer and invade this planet, it's just mind-boggling. It is really mind-boggling. And then when people can't see that, and I see this in Australia, that people just still, no, that's these abos, they shouldn't be, da. And I see what problems that has caused, you know what I mean? And the thing is the same with, then I got that off Masanobu Fukuoka. You see, when we as men think, and when we go against nature, we create so many problems that we can't repair anymore. We can only mitigate them. We can only mitigate the problems. Because, and then these solutions that we try to implement will then cause more side effects. And then we try to get them, that causes more side effects, like with pharmaceuticals. And then there's an example here, the rabbits in Australia that was brought in. It's a pest here. You can never get rid of the rabbits in Australia. You understand? Once the eggshell is broken, it'll never be once. It's gone. And that's the same, like all around. You know, I see there's so many, and if people can't understand that, we need to reset and we got to go back, because the way that we have slaughtered whole cultures down to nothing. Look at the Red Indians in America. You know, like there's genocide. Genocide is happening here still. And so it is with all. Only once they're all gone, we think we're right. That's what happens. And if people are oblivious to it, I just don't understand. They just don't want to see the reality, the truth, you know what I mean? All they want to see is scientific proof. And I think you suck, because you're not a human being respecting nature. That's what it comes down to. As the Indians say, if the white man in America would have lived the life that we lived, you could still drink any water out of every river. You could still have soil that is not contaminated, and you could still breathe the air without all the contaminations in it. But they haven't done that, you see. And I mean, one of the best documentaries I've ever seen was Red Cry, that the Indigenous people in America did in 2000, I think, 12 or so. And I mean, I've been following Indigenous movements quite a bit just to see how we don't accept that form of living, that way of living, you know what I mean? And I find it very, very, very disturbing how we still kill people these days, not physically by putting a bullet through their head, but by removing their existence, removing their surroundings from them, so they can't actually live anymore, you know what I mean? And making it dependent on white, addictive alcohol, drugs, and all the rest of it, that all these Indigenous tribes didn't have. They didn't have that. They didn't need that. You know, see? They weren't wandering. They were like the dog watching the moon. Who cares? Yes, they had their own spirituality, like everybody. Like spirituality comes as a, it's just a human trait that we have, you know what I mean? That we think on a higher level, or we want to think on a higher level. But with the physical existence that we have, the spirit will wander. The physics stays here, but at the moment we're dealing with the physicality as well, you know what I mean? And I always say, like, I mean, the better your physicality, the better is your mental state and your spiritual state, as we know. Again, it's just something you have to experience yourself, and the more you clean yourself out, the more you will experience that. And as I said, when the discussion comes to, should we be all breatharians, you know what I mean? But me personally, the breatharianism is not a natural state in itself, you know what I mean? Like if you're out there in the bush, and that's what I always compare myself. What would I do if I all by myself out in the jungle or in the bush? What would I do? Because then you have to, there your answers. You go and look for something this or something that, and so on and so on. You wouldn't go and kill an animal necessarily if it comes along, but then what would you want to do with it? You know what I mean? I'm just saying that thinking process is something that we all should really go through, because we do that as humans anyway. And I explained it just in little terms of, think about kids. When you were a kid and your parents and grandparents, you didn't believe what they were saying. You've been always told what to do. But you had the right, and you had to experience that yourself. So it's an experience factor that you're going through, or I have to live it. And and then later on, when I became a parent, I could see what my parents trying to do, but I had to have the room to experiencing it myself. And that's why we have generations. And that's why, think about it. I'm 57 this year. How many 30-year-old friends do I have? None. How many 20-year-old friends have I got? None. Like, I'm talking friends, you know, I know, but how many 10-year-olds have I got? You don't. How many 80-year-olds have I got? No, I haven't. So you live in your own age group as you meander through life, and so does everybody else. And so my kids want to experience the same thing as I did, and I got to give them the right to it. Circumstances change, like with this little device, you know what I mean? That has certainly caused a lot of havoc, and all the rest of it. But it's the human right that you're able to experiencing it, you know what I mean? And that's why we as humans make the same mistake over and over and over again. We always do, because every generation has the right to make their own mistakes, the same as I did, and the same as they did. And that's why you have, how should I say, I sit here and I see how my kids doing things not the way they should be doing it, but I can't do nothing about it. I just got to let them go, because how am I telling them? I can only sow the seeds, as I said before, so that they can take them up, but I can't expect them that they straight away wake up to that, you know what I mean? Because they have to go through their own process of learning, as I did, and you have to give them that right, you know what I mean? And that's why I find where things get completely out of sight now is with all the technology that we have, and all the electronics and all the rest of it. Because even for me, I'm like, I've had more than enough of all that. I don't need any of that shit no more, because it doesn't get us anywhere. It only goes, it makes it all worse. But what would I say if I was 20 years old? You know what I mean? Well, I got to work with that. I got to go with it, and I got to try to improve it, because that's the system that conditions us so much. And that conditioning, as I said, is profound. And I find, as I said at the beginning, it's where it gets me on my adrenal levels, you know, like how acidic I can get just through the sheer watching society. You know what I mean? It makes it very, very hard to find, as I said, the grasp. And that's why when you have a lifestyle like MFS shows and offers, it's something that you, as I said, you have to implement. But even that, implementing that in his household is not an easy thing. It's not. You know, it's not, because then you have to cook 5 different meals and all this and all that, and all that makes it very hard. So I find eating nothing makes it the easiest, because you can just basically shut yourself off and say, well, look, you just do whatever you want to do. I'm just on my little grape juice, and I'll do this and that. And that's all there is. Or you dry fasting, you know what I mean? So then you have to have. But as I said, I don't think that breatharianism is, how should I say, it's an aim. Again, it's an aim. It's a goalpost that you want to go, you know what I mean? But again, it's like I said, it's not for everybody. You know, it wouldn't be. Because it's something that is like the 100-meter sprinter. You know, not everybody can be a 100-meter world champion. So people that thrive in it, go for it. That's just my little view on that.
I love that to say, you know, when one person can do it, I believe everybody can, but like you have to want it.
Yeah.
I believe if one person can do it, I believe everybody can. And if I can do something, I feel like everybody can. You know, 100%.
Yep.
This is how I feel. If I can do it, everybody can. But then we have different interests, of course. And
it's just like MFS. It's not for everybody. People want to eat.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But you know, like once you practice something, let's say you got into Master Fast and you're interested and you like it more and more and more, and you started getting interested in breatharianism. I believe, you know, practice will give you the answers of what you want. You know, like the experience, your experience doing it. You step away from it, and many people have, you know, some people have done 108 days and they stepped away from it. If you step away from it, you kind of forget the beauty of the Master Fast. And I believe the beauty of fasting is way higher than the beauty of eating, and we have done both, so we can say that. And it's very similar as well, like when you eat and you when you fast and stop eating for a while, you want to fast more, right? We want to fast more. You're more gravitated towards fasting. But just like I feel anything else in life, when you do something, you want it. When you stop it, you don't care for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this is how I feel. It's like with food as well. You know, when you eat meat, you want meat. When you eat fish, you want fish. When you eat chocolate, you want chocolate. But when you remove it, you don't care for it. But you know, deep down, we all know, those who have done fasting and eating know the difference. Like you can't lie to yourself. You can lie superficially, but deep down, you know the truth.
Yeah. Oh, look, that's exactly right. I mean, look, we're a creature of habits, all right? And remember, I did write that once enough. For me, that little thing that for me that a thought, you know, becomes an emotion. And the emotion has then to become a word. And you turn the word into an action. And the action turns into a habit. And with a habit, you can change. Not with an emotion, but with a habit. Yeah. Only what you do as a habit.
Lifestyle.
Change. Yeah. Then you change direction. You can do it for a while, just talking about it and doing this and that, but that doesn't change your way of thinking and a way of living. But when I start not eating for 16 hours or 20 hours, when you make that become a habit, that changes your direction. Because you, as I said, other things opening up in you that are way out. You know what I mean? That outweigh not eating. You know what I mean? Like it's just that sacrifice. And I mean, it's a habit. As I said, it's a habit. I can't. Why would you eat this for breakfast? You know what I mean? And when you look at all these diets, breakfast is your most important meal. Well, actually, it isn't. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I have, in that way, saying we're a creature of habits, and we need to work consistently on it. If you don't work on it, you lose it. Yeah. It's as simple as that. And that's where I'm saying the 108 days. Yeah, a lot of people then run away from it, you know, because it's been too much. It's been like, I tell you, when I coach guys, all right, we had always a grill session on Saturday. Okay, Saturday was massive because we had 2 sessions, and they had to do it was 6 hours endurance training. All right, and people completely crumbled. That's just crumbled. It's just gone. And I said, look, it doesn't matter. I said, all you got to learn is get up, do the best you can, and then compare that to next Saturday. And then get down again, and then come up again, and then compare that to the next Saturday. And then do it again. And that's how you grind yourself into a habit. Yeah. And if you can't do that, then this sport is not for you. Yes, it is still here for you for your recreation. But if you look at an elite level, you won't reach elite if you can't go through that process. All right? So that's what I'm saying. You know, that's what I'm saying. That's so, for me, educational, because applying it, having it applied myself, having it show to others, see what it can do, then and that's why I see that's when I read MFS, and this is all easy. This is easy. This is nothing hard here. It's just got to be done. That's the hardest thing. Doing it day by day by day. Not a week, not 108 days. No. Tomorrow morning and tomorrow night and the next day and the next. And then becomes that habit. And you never knew that you did anything else before. You know what I mean? Isn't that like for me, I can't even remember that I've done anything else before. You know what I mean? Like you have to scratch and think, oh, what did I do? How did I do this? And how did I do that? Because now it becomes a lifestyle. And that's what I'm saying. And if you can incorporate it more into a natural lifestyle, that's why for me it's important to go out every day, hour, you know, and go and connect. And I wish I could do much more on that. But as you can see, the trappedness, you know, when you run your own business and you have to do this, you have to do that. And you see, I was just like 10 days in China, and that's a hard thing, you know, over there, because raw food over there, I mean, there's fruit and all that available, but it's just the whole socializing, the whole thing. It's a completely different system. And so that, as I said, there's challenges always there. But the good thing is, you see, you can fall off it and you just go back on it, and that's it. Don't worry about it. Just it's okay. It's okay. Just don't worry. You've done this. Yeah. And because at the end, see, that's that guilt that is so important, that self-guilt, that you make yourself feel bad about it. Don't feel bad about it. Like, just, you know, like, embrace, as we said, embrace it, do it, and then just go back to it. And that's all there is, you know. Although, as I said, you even in China, I even educate my partners over there, you know what I mean? And I show them this and show them that and tell them this, and no, let's not eat, let's just get a bit longer, you know what I mean? Just stretch it out a bit longer, and so on and so on. So it's fun, you know, you can make it a fun thing too. And so it should be, because at the end, look, if the jaws are going against yourself, why are you doing it? Like, fine, you know, like, it's got to bloom within yourself, it's got to sprout within yourself, and then you can live with it. If it doesn't do that, well, then go back to your meats, then go back to your dairy products, then go back and do this. Well, hey, don't feel guilty about it. Just embrace it. At the end, that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. It's a choice. It's always that level of choice you got to give yourself. And if you do that, then you don't have that guilt conscience.
Absolutely.
You know, like it's just that's and that's something that I can only reiterate for everybody else. You know, like and yeah, and obviously yes, people like to hear the same thing. I remember when my kids were young, they watched the same videos Charlotte's read 50 million times. You know what I mean? Like that's us. That's nature. You know what I mean? Like that's just something that like we do. We like to have the same over and over and over until you get to a saturation point, and then when you want to be stimulated on a higher level or to more again, which then I find distractive, or as I said, it destroys us. You know what I mean? At the end, because you see, for me, I see if I have to sort of visualize our whole society, I see it like sitting on the Titanic. Yeah, we're all sitting on the Titanic. We know where we're heading towards. The outcome is clear. And does it matter if you're on stern class or in upper class? Does it make a difference to the result? No. Once you're going down, you're going down. But, and that's from a society point of view, if I'm in stern class and I know I've got to change course because the information that I've got says we're going to crash. So what information I want to get to the bridge and tell this captain, mate, you got to change course. What chance have I got to get from stern class onto the bridge? I've got around 2 chances. There's none or buckless. I have no chance of getting there because I get held up and I get this and that. But I have a choice. You know what I can do? Ask for a life vest and a lifeboat and be put aboard other side and say, is anybody with me? You know what I mean? Because this ship is going down, so I'd rather jump off now and then go and find another place. And I think that's something that also motivates, like is a kind of motivation to me, that when I know that we as a society, we're not doing the right thing, you know, to ourselves, to our planet. And have I got a choice to change that? Like we had just had elections here. I don't vote no more. It's useless. It's senseless. It's what are you going to vote for? That makes no difference. Whoever is in, but the system that creates the problem cannot solve the problems. It can't. It can't. Like energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be redirected. It's just the same thing. And I see, and that's why I wish, yeah, well, let's get the Greens in, or let's get whoever is in. Let's give them the power. And then they'll see, if you don't, we need to change the whole system. Can we do that? No, absolutely not, because we won't. I mean, we can only change ourselves, and we can work as small groups, because you see, where I see the solution is localization. You've got to live locally. We should be able to live local only, not global, local. We can be connected through, obviously, the communication thing. But for me to really solve the issues that we have is basically stop transportation. Stop transportation. Stop air transportation within 5-10 years. Stop road transportation within 40 years. Stop it. And learn to live locally in your own neighborhoods. Then you will understand that cities are a desert. You can't survive in a city. You can't. How do you want to live in a city? So it means you've got to move out. We've got enough space. There's enough space. And if you do natural farming, and if you do live in the environment, then we can spread. And once you spread, you have communities, local communities that look after themselves. Yes, you can be connected. And be honest, it's like, I know this is only, you know, this is a dream and all this and all that, but I see this far more visible than going and find planet B, you know, that we can go to destroy or manufacture on the moon as they're trying to do. I mean, mate, you know, I don't know. But that needs an awakening. And I think with the, you know, with the plasma movement and all this and all that, that is all there to awaken people and to connect people. But at the end, we have to do it. You know what I mean? Like it has to be done. We can't talk about it. Because that's where I get, and that's why I don't even, like, see, even on Facebook, I don't socialize on Facebook. I use Facebook as an information source, but I'm not socializing on it. I'm not want to exchange all this and all that. What for? live in your local area, connect with information, but then apply it in your local area, in your own house. Think, if I don't have peace inside myself, how can I have peace in my family? If I don't have peace in my family, how can I have peace with the neighbor? He's a bastard. And if I don't have peace in the neighborhood, how can we have peace in the world? But we can tell somebody on the other side of the world what to do and where to go to. We're very good on that, all of us. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's the peace inside here that happens. And then you know, man, I don't go tell him that. I don't have to, because it's useless. And then you see all this stuff that we tangled up in for nothing, for absolutely nothing. Remember, one of the great guys, John Mohawk, he was an Indian activist. He was an Indian himself. He died in 2006. Very morbid, obese the man was. But I read, he wrote a book called, or he actually didn't write the book. He wrote all the stuff in the book, but it was edited after his death in 2006. Thinking in Indian. All right, Thinking in Indian. And when you read this book, and that spans over 30 or 40 years of his life, where all sort of the writings that he did were put together, it blows me away. When you see the simplicity, and when you go on YouTube and you watch him, John Mohawk, and one of the things, like, it made so much sense, you know, because he explained the side of when the Europeans went to North America, and you know how they invaded. Well, Columbus never saw North America; he was only in the Caribbean. But when all this happening, and when people out of Europe went over to North America, and some of them just jumped off and went straight to the Indians. And when they later came back to the white men, and then they were sort of asked, which way would you like to live? 100% of them said the Indian way. And why? Indians and Indigenous people govern themselves without coercion. There's no coercion. It's non-coercive governing. Every government that we have is a coercive governing. In Europe, there was always a king or an emperor or some other little thing that had, you know, and you didn't write, they pulled up in your castle down into the cellar and they adjusted your mind a little bit, you know what I mean? So it was always a coerciveness, this coerciveness that we have. Everything is a coercion that we're under. And I find that the solution is living locally, coerciveness, no coercion. But the more people you have, the more coercion you have to apply. So you keep communities small, and that's what the Indians did. They had small villages, and they had town meetings. And in the town meetings, everybody came together and everybody could speak their mind. And if it wasn't agreed by 100%, we're not going to change anything. And that's what I think that's where I'm looking for ways of what are we doing wrong. And we have lived in balance on this planet, but we left that stage, you know, like remember, and I just look back, and how can we then reconnect? Because for them, sacred, or everything nature was sacred. We don't touch that. We use for what we need, but that's it, nothing more. And I think when you think, and when you looked at that in all Indigenous community, how they lived in their geographical area is the way that men should live. And if you don't live that way, then you're going to destroy it. And aren't we doing this? Aren't we destroying just everything? So for me, peace has to come from within. But I also find I have to find peace physically. How do I find this? And I think if we look at a non-coercive lifestyle where we don't coerce everybody, I'm not going to force you to do that. I'm not going to force you. No, let's get all that force out. And I think that goes hand in hand with MFS. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have to coerce anybody. We don't have to force anybody to do something. You do it because you want to do it. and it's based on nature. So moving out of cities, moving into nature, living non-coercive, under no pressure, governing is done by the tribe, by the local community. But if you can't, think about it, they reckon there were between 60 and 100 million people in North America when the white men got there. Now that's a lot. I read up, I mean, everybody got their own little, but think about if 60 million Indians lived, non-coercive, not, what they had were secret society. Because what happens was when the white men came to India, to America, and some of them lived with these different Indian tribes. And the guy was called John Russell. And he was a Puritan from England. So he went and showed the Indians the Christian religion. And the Indians were made, listened to him, saying the thing, this, and said, yeah, that's great, John. Thank you very much. So then he left and lived with other tribes. So when he came back, they were doing their old stuff. And he would say, yeah, but hang on, you can't do that. I've showed you now Christianity. So you can't do anything else but that. And then the Indian said, but Mr. Russell, if we do that, we have arguments with each other the whole day. And we don't do that here. So we just do whatever we want to do. And that's when they had secret societies. So when you thought that what the tribe does is not right, then you were able to do that, but you weren't able to actually force any other person to do that. You know what I mean? That's that non-coerciveness. If you think you have to live it your own way, then live it your own way. But don't try to force it upon. And if it's not accepted by the elders, and that's what they had, you know what I mean? Like the elders were, in Indian societies, all decisions, hard decisions were made by the grandmothers, not by men, because men make a lot of times always the wrong decision. But grandmothers that have given birth and have know what it means to breed life, they were asked and they made the decision. And I think that in our society, what do we do with our elders? Put them in retirement villages. Shut up, Dad. Shut up, Mum. You're going there now. We know what we're doing. See, if we would live still today in one household, from the grandmother down to the newborn, and we would breed and smell each other the whole day, we would live a different life, for sure, Because, and then as I said, if it's based, I'm not against technology or knowledge, but knowledge can be very destructive, It destroys us. The nuclear bomb, the knowledge of a nuclear bomb is destructive, I'm sorry. Should not go that way. Should leave it alone. It's a secret society if you want to live, but don't force it upon the population. I just see that as a far more, palatable solution for us as humans, you know what I mean, to do that instead of going this madness is what we do in destroying ourselves. I mean, listen to George Carlin, you know, the comedian, the American comedian. Right. I mean, he is an absolute thunderbolt. Well, he's dead now too, but how sarcastic was that man? How much truth did he tell you? But he could only do it as a comedian. If he was a politician, he was gone. He'd be taken off the table 100%. But because he was a comedian, he could say anything. Anything he could say, because I'm telling you a joke, you know? I'm telling you a joke. But the truth that he revealed, I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, I find that very highly, not only entertainment, as a good entertainment, but educational, you know what I mean? Like, you know, the way he slams society, you know? And for that, as I said, that's where I'm saying, I look for ways, I mean, and I'll open it up to you all. What do you think is a way of living? I mean, we know the lifestyle of MFS, but from a society point of view, because that then comes also to the adrenal side and to the mental side that is so damaged in us. What is a better way of living? You know what I mean?
You're absolutely right. Can I say something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, and it definitely does start with us in our own home. This spring we have, grown some fruits and vegetables as much as we can. Gino usually does. This is my first time here. I used to live downtown Toronto for 20 years.
Yeah.
And, 22 years, and then I just moved here when we got married. It's my first spring here, and I said I want everything we can put here. I mean, it's a small place, but I want everything. And he said we can only put so much. And I did mention this before even the spring. I said I just want to eat from my garden, I want to live, I want to be, I just want to live and on my own food, from my own food. I don't want to buy food from imported somewhere else. And right now I'm fasting, and I don't want to break the fast until I eat the food from the garden when it has grown. And I feel this is very important. Another thing is minimalism. Yes, I love to buy some stuff, but overall my desk is clean. Like I don't like to put much stuff, and I love minimalism, the idea of minimalism. Just leave everything that you don't need and just have whatever you absolutely need. I think that's very important. At least that's me. That's a good start, I see, but I can see more future, much more in the future.
With these big cities that are already established, a lot of changes can be made, right? They can start planting a lot of fruit trees, edible things all over through the cities. All kinds of stuff can happen, but the small community thing, I think, is usually it's a better system because it's been already established that it worked.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aboriginals. So, what's already established here, we can make a lot of changes and improve it a lot.
If you put trees here, probably one reason they didn't is because they don't want the mess, and people are not going to clean up and, whatever, right?
There's no mess if you eat it.
We have to be responsible, right? So everybody has to work, not only the government has to change, but everybody has to work.
Absolutely.
We have to be ready to change, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, that's why, see, you'll go around the world, and you can do that obviously with the internet and all that, and you see that there are societies that do try and tend to a lot to go into that direction, because it's the self-sufficiency that really has to happen. And as you can see yourself, you're starting a garden and trying to get your fruit trees going and so on and so on. And I can see that even in our street here, all the footpaths, all the government council footpaths, they could be all planted and this, but that needs a whole change in society. You know what I mean? That needs the whole, so that, and then at the end of the day, we don't need to lock doors no more. We have neighbors that you see, because you live locally. But that's the hardest thing, you see, because what I find is the isolation, that we isolate ourselves more and more into our own house and put borders out and put this and put that, I look back, even back home when I grew up, like we were able to still go into all the neighbors' places and have something to eat there and this and that. That all has completely stopped. You know what I mean? Like the way we socializing is it all has to be planned. It all has to be this, it all has to be that. As I said, it's the more technology run that we are, the less humanity is there. There's no, it sucks all the humanity out. And that's where you got to see, for me, how do you want to shut down a city? I mean, I've read like reports of there's like mind-boggling how, what should be done. We should look, all universities should be shut down. Because if you see, the more, think about it, that's another question I have. Is it that we don't know enough, or is it that we know too much?
Too much.
At the end, don't we know enough? And that's what I'm saying. See, that's where even with the system, with the MFS system, far too much. It's too much, really. Yeah, people demand, but can't we do this and can't we do that and can't we do this? No, shut up and just do that. That's it. You know what I mean? Really. Comes down to that, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, Hanspeter, I was relating to what you were saying earlier, that basically I went through similar experience. I went through so much schooling, and then eventually left everything behind. I was my last thing was stem cell research, and I left everything behind. And you were saying something about nature. So I was in fertility. I studied fertility. I did masters in fertility, and I worked in fertility clinics for a while. And at some point, we studied epigenetics and the effect of the environment of the, in vitro fertilization, right? Like everything in the lab and the dishes and the media that they use and the different factors and how they have an effect on the babies that are born, fertility treatments, and how there is like a higher rate of abnormalities. And I was like, this is very interesting. That was the most interesting topic maybe in the masters for me. And from that point on, I started thinking and questioning fertility. And then when at some point, I left fertility and I did stem cell research. And then after that, I left stem cell research as well. And because I was into raw food, and then I was like, this is amazing. This is like, this is something that we have never learned anything about, that the body can heal itself. And I decided that I hated what I'm doing, and I had to completely change and detoxification. And that's exactly what I did. It was a hard decision, of course, but yes, like, is it natural? No. I mean, if now my sisters, I tell them, if they're having a hard time getting pregnant, please do not do fertility treatments. Like I'm the first one to tell people to please not to do it, because it is not natural. I don't care. The environment is not like the environment inside the uterus. It's not.
No, that's correct. Yeah.
It's mimicked. It's it's mimicked. It will never be 100% unless we are stupid. I mean, it's obvious. We know it's not the same. So do you want to put the baby in an artificial environment? I mean, it's called artificial reproductive treatments for a reason. It's artificial.
Look, I'm fully with you, and I say the thing is, one of the things that I've inspired me very much is when they asked Masanobu Fukuoka with his natural farming, and he says, and then the organic farmers and even the permaculture farmers said to him, but can't we just add a bit of this and then do a bit of this and a bit of that? And he said, no, you can't. There's two options you've got. You either live by the law of nature or you live in human fantasy. There's the two options you've got. That's all there is. There's no in between. You either live by nature and you die by nature, or you live a human fantasy. And all this research that we're doing, that's all human fantasy. You see, that's all it is. Nothing else. We try to better everything in nature. You can't. How can we better the things that made us? It's impossible. We can't. We can only destroy it. Like I said, we put the rabbits out. Well, that destroys the whole environment here in Australia. It has. And we can't change it, but we think we've done a good thing. We brought the rabbits in. Well, yay, good on you. But that's the human fantasy. And you can only then, with the problems that creates, mitigate it. If you do stem research, if you make babies in the tubes, and we make this and that, it's like eating the apple or drink the juice, isn't it? What should you be doing? You've got to eat the apple. Don't worry about the juice, because the juice is already there, and so on and so on. So all that is quite clear, but it's so simple. But we don't want it simple. We love having it complicated. We need it complicated. Or we need another problem, and we need another this, and we need another. And at the end of the day, we're running in circles. Man, that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? The power and intelligence that made us is the power and intelligence that heals us. Leave it alone. Leave it alone, and it'll all do whatever has to be done. Look, we all have to die, okay? Because that's another thing, because everybody thinks, oh, you know, I'll be a bit more invincible than others, you know what I mean? And I will live a little bit longer. But at the very end of the day, we all got to die. Now think about it, it's the cycle of life, the circle of life, okay? And at the end, we come, we thrive, and then we go. Now, and we all have to age. You can't stop the aging process. Everything ages. This tree out there I'm looking at tomorrow is not the same tree. It's an older tree. When it was young, when it is in its full thrive, and when it goes. So we age. Can't stop that. People try and do all sorts of things. Don't worry about it. You got to age. But what you can do and help yourself is you don't have to deteriorate. But even deterioration, at the end when we go, everybody deteriorates because it's a circle of life. So even the tree at the end will have something that then will bring him down. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not that he's fully strong and the wind just blows him over. No, no, no. Because it has remember that life potential that we have, the genetic potential we have, will get us for so long. We can shorten it up. Drink booze, drug yourself up, eat shit, clog yourself up. Good on ya. Remember, as Arnold there had said, a drunkard might get old, but a glutton never. So when you become a glutton, you know that you're shortening your lifespan quite a lot because you're clogging yourself up. Gone. Done. Tubes are full. Yeah, finished. So we have a genetic potential that we can extend. We can't extend. You can't. Your genes are given. It's a given thing. Your recipes is together. However this is, but it doesn't say in your forehead, I get 97.4 months old. It doesn't say that, you know what I mean? But we have a potential to live a certain age. How we live it, yes, that's where we see. That's what choices do we make? Do we choose a materialistic, a consumption, or a minimalistic like you? And I'm right behind you there, Rana. It's the lesser you have, the better off you are. It is. Less is more. It is always that. Always. Because the more you have, the more shit fights come, the more arguments you have, the more choices you give. Man, when we see, I'm saying when we grew up, we had either we could have the bread with sugar straight or with butter in between. So, but it was only in the ad. So that was the only thing you could eat. But that's really what it comes down to in a lot of things. Once you understand, once you have, look, all this knowledge that we have, and people go absolutely ballistic on it. All, for me, not necessary. That's why I don't read no more a lot of stuff. I read something, if it hasn't got to do with nature, don't worry about it. Don't worry. It's not necessary. So I have so much lesser to do because if it's not something that comes and talks about peace, and maybe one other thing that I'd like to touch on is a bit the psychic of it, you know what I mean? Like how the meditation and the man-made stuff, you know what I mean? When people have all sorts of, we can imagine so many things and people see so many things. People see dead people, other people, you know, see ghosts, see this, see that. I'm not in denial of that at all. It's all happening. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? That's up to you, you know what I mean? Whereas we have a spirit, and I feel that myself, we're a spiritual being, but we have a physical existence, okay? And that physical existence is something that will carry, even through the time that we're here on the planet, will carry the spirit through, okay? And you know that yourself, I mean, when you see all these gurus and all these meditationals, these monks and all this sitting here, there, and meditating the whole day, but still not eating the right food, you know what I mean? Still indulging in stuff that for their physical being is not that beneficial. I'm not sure. I do believe mind is over matter, you know what I mean? But matter will bring you down if you neglect it for too long, you know what I mean? Like you can't neglect your physical being, you know what I mean? Like, doesn't matter what people tell me. And I've seen I've done, I do TM, you know, Transcendental Meditation, yeah, Mahesh Yogi. And I feel there's a benefit to it, okay? But at the end of the day, your clarity comes from emptiness. Even mentally, the more empty you are, the more no thoughts you have, the better off you are. That's my personal experience. The less I eat, the better off I am. So it goes hand in hand, you know what I mean? Like, instead of, and I mean, meditation is about conscience, is about just not going into realms of, and I mean, I see this, that people go way astray into lands that I'm not sure if you should be there, you know what I mean? Like, as we go into indulge ourselves in physicality, is it necessary that we mentally go into a realm of so much conscience? Because at the end, what is the benefit of it? You know what I mean? Like, what is the physical benefit? Because at the end of the day, out of every meditation, you come back into a physical reality. And can that change the physical reality for ourselves or for our beings? I'm not sure. I leave it open. I mean, Ranji, she's done a hell of a lot on the meditation or on the spiritual side. You know what I mean? I mean, that's where, like, where do you see, Ranji, the benefits of going into the like the physical side or the spiritual side? Can you overindulge in the spiritual side, or is it, and what benefits do you bring into the physical reality of that? I mean,
yeah, I can only speak for my current situation, which has been fucking awesome.
We know that, yeah, great.
Yeah, look, it all comes down to nature, mate. It really does. You're right on the ball with that. Like, honestly, that's where it comes. Like, when your channels are so cleaned out, and you tap into your younger self, your 20-year-old, you know what it was like when you were 20 in Australia, it's great. And so you tap into that, and you, like, everything's clean. Like, even now my hands were burning, and you see things so differently. So the clarity is there. But the one thing that you alluded to, when you're talking about your rowing and being a coach and that, like, at the end of the day, you completely surrender. Like, you just give yourself over to the soul so much, and there's so much trust that there is no fear. I fully, like, it's really funny because I went into the realm of the Aboriginals last night before I fell asleep at 3:30 in the morning. And I used to see this Aboriginal lady down, I don't know if you know Queensland very well, but Gympie, Gympie, gold town. Yep. Anyway, so this lady I used to see, and I actually, before I come to MFS, I said, oh, what's that place over there on your land? Because I can see women there. And she goes, can you see that? And I said, I can't see it, but I see the form, I see the visions. And then I kept going back there every week for a little while. And one lady used to speak to me, and she goes, you people will eventually come and commune with my tree. You people will come and commune. Anyway, so once that gave me a remembrance. And when I been doing this, like the 3-day, the dries, mate, I can't get over the dries, because the dries are just freaking awesome. And you have the herbs, and you're just like, you're zapped. And plus you suck in the herbs, your skin sucks in the herbs from the nature, like you said. So you go back into nature, and then I did that cold water plunge thing the other, my 3-day dry, right? So that opened up these channels. I didn't understand it, Hamster. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to get the knowledge from the books, like you said. It just is all like you just surrender to this, whatever it is, and then the soul trusts you. You trust the soul, and then you've got this intimate relationship going on with the fields, and you're fully just gone with it. And then you go bloody start hugging a tree at night and start talking to the trees, and then my tree talks to freaking Gino's tree in his neighborhood. So you don't actually, so the network's already there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you feel it, like like it's so instant, like you just penetrate through. So the answer to your question, you gotta just get rid of the freaking mind, like that program mind, as much as you possibly can. You got to get out of it. You got to give yourself the time to do this, and it doesn't take that long. Like what you said, 108 days isn't that long. You got to give that ability to it. So once you do that, then it becomes like a roller coaster to freaking amazing. And then you tap into that, and then you can't get off, because the thing is, if you get off, there's a responsibility. It's like you're on notice. So the information is being given to you, and if you do not integrity with that information from the soul and source and creator, that high expansive fields, you will be caught up in the grey. Like you said, you will be caught up. You'll be you the person that knows the information and doesn't do anything with it, is not living in it, like being in it. You're the one that's going to be more screwed than the 95% of people that are living in their apartments in the city, because they're completely numbed out. They don't give a shit. They don't want to go there. They're not going to face the mirror of truth.
No.
They're not going to do any of that. So the only thing we can do, I feel, is yes, you go back to you first. You serve you, love you, love you, love you, and then you go enjoy that, because that's the freaking grace. That's the blessing. And then you go and start giving to communities. Like I was even dreaming and having visions like, look, I'd love to get a whole big block of land, 10 acres up on Sunshine Coast. You can't have homeless people living with you because of the laws. You can't help and serve people because of the freaking laws. So you got to do everything for free. And okay, great. That's good, because that's the way it should be. And then I'm like thinking, I could have all my MFS people come and stay with me. And, and we can just bloody get this roller coaster thing going on a big, huge scale and just be with each other. And that's the energy of the community that I feel like it's the high, expansive fields that you tap into that penetrate through the earth. I actually think we're going back to balance. I don't feel that we have completely lost it. I believe on this planet we still have it. Because you know why I reckon, Hanspeter, why we have it is because I felt it. If I felt it and other people here feel it, then it's here. You can't take this stuff away from us at all. There is no way in the world. We don't have to eat anything. We don't have to drink anything. We can just fast. And I mean, I don't believe in the breatharian labels and all that sort of stuff myself personally. All I believe in is like, okay, I feel better when I'm empty and my channels are cleaned on a daily basis. If my channels are cleaned and I do these things like go hug a tree, I do these things and hang out with you guys, and I'm 100% focused on that, and that mind shit, the world shit, the government shit, all that shit, that's a fallen down system that's going to fall because it has to. I'm going to create my life with my husband and my community, my local, my people that I love, this system, because this system is it is billions of years safe. It got this freaking bloody industrial revolution that we lived in, and gone through, and all this sort of stuff. There's some benefits to it. We've got technology and we can connect here and we can commune and we can talk and we can play with our minds and be in our paradigms and all that sort of stuff. Sometimes being the paradigms, honestly, is a form of entertainment to me, like that comedy guy. Like I just always think when I'm talking to someone else, my paradigm's talking to their paradigm, man, that's a full comedy in itself. You go, far out. At least you're like you're in the observed state. And who actually has the power in that? You do, right? Because you're empowered, because you have the information. But however, you've got to use that information of full integrity, because if you don't, oh man, it comes down on you so fast. If you're, like I think Gina was saying, if you're thieving and you're doing that stuff, man, that stuff just freaking comes down on you. You've got to be on full integrity all the time. You've got to be that way of living. And so my answer to your question is it's all from the soul. It's always from the soul. You come from the soul and then you go into your mind. So once you're in the mind, you tell the mind what to do. So the mind becomes your best friend. My mind's my best friend at the moment. And then you can have that front vision of whatever vision that you want from your frontal brain. Thank you, God, for my front brain. And then you can create whatever paradigms you want, play with whatever paradigms you want in your head. And then you live through the physical form and like this manifestation of materialization. Things can definitely appear in thin air. Like you can just, the atmosphere just penetrates through. And, thank you for that question. I mean, I preach this shit now because, like, honestly, what else are you going to do? And you don't have to talk to anyone anyway, like these numbed out people. You know what I mean? Like you could just be there and just just laugh. Yeah, I don't know. Did that help you, mate? No. Look,
as I said, it just comes down to it's the overindulging in anything. You know what I mean? Is it beneficial or not? You know what I mean? Obviously, from a physical realm, we know that overindulging in obstructiveness is obviously damages you, and it's only you get freedom by not doing anything. You know what I mean? And I'm just saying, when I see people go, you know what I mean, from a conscious point of view, you know what I mean? At the end, even my spiritual, my meditational side that I do, and I don't do a lot in the way, because at the end, I try to it's got to benefit me in my existence here on this planet. Okay, I know we'll move on, but it's got to benefit me, and in which way? And that's where I find when you go too far. Remember the coin, two sides, as I said before. In the physical side, if you go too far and you just overeat yourself, and I'm saying if you go and don't eat, and you have to be tuned in. If you want to be a breatharian, you have to, as I said, it's again, for me, it's just another goal that people set themselves. I don't see breatharianism in nature, to be honest. Breatharianism is for me a man-made thing, you see, because I don't see any animals that are breatharians, like, or in the creature world, you know.
If you're focused in this realm, yeah.
Yeah, it's nature has not. I mean, if an animal, I mean, look, meaning of life. Let's look at the meaning of life. What's the meaning of life? I like Alan Watts. The meaning of life is just to be alive. It's that simple and it's that obvious. And when you look at all the other creatures, they're just alive. They're not going. An elephant is not going to worry about making a skyscraper or building a bridge. You know what I mean? We're all here just to be. And I think for that, we need a certain existence. And obviously, and I don't know why nature actually did that, because a lot of things we cannot understand and cannot explain at all, that animals, as soon as they're born, they know what to do, okay? They know what they can eat. Nobody tells them. Nobody does that. Just know naturally from instinct. We've lost a lot of that instinct. We gain conscience, opposing thumbs, making tools, big brains, making bigger tools, and so on and so on. So we build and make this and make that. Animals don't do that. And I'm not sure if that, as I said, if nature has a reason for everything. The universe has a reason for everything. We don't understand all that because we don't have to. We just have to be and not to understand. So, and that's where in the physical side as well, I don't see breatharianism in nature by living beings, other living beings. That all is always a way of nourishment. I understand the nourishment, the pranic or the thing that is out there. And I feel that too, don't get me wrong.
There's spiders that go for like 2 years without food and water. Bears go for 6-7 months a year. There's examples of it, not continuously forever.
But you also say that animals are a reflection of man. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's why
the emotion of man.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they're eating. Who knows?
Mm. See, that's where so many things we don't know. The more we know, the more we know that we don't know. So that's it. You know, like we're all on the same table here. It's just that way, you know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. It's that you understand what I'm saying. One thing, and then I go right with Ranji there is, and I think that hopefully makes sense. Is that coerciveness, that no coercion, coerciveness, that we don't. Let's just let go. Don't force things upon other people. And we have had societies that lived that way, and we came and civilized them. You know what I mean? And brought all the illnesses and brought all the damaging to them. And we still believe that we're superior to that. And I find that very, very, very destructive. You know what I mean? Very, very bad. You know what I mean? But I don't think we can get that out. Look, Man, I don't know. In history, we always have used everything that we invented. We will use, you know what I mean. And when you know what we've already invented on a destructive side, if you're going to ever use all that shit, we'd be in for a hell of a ride. You know what I mean? A hell of a ride. And that's where I'm saying you can only isolate yourself, and as you know, as Ramji said, just look for, drop everything, and live as with the least amount of coercion on yourself or on other people, and try to establish communities and ways. With natural farming, from my point of view, and living off the land, learn to live off the land, that's things that we can do physically, you know what I mean? Because I'll be starting very soon some bushwalks here that we, as I said, want to go and live off what we find, you know what I mean? Like, as you do in your backyard, we do that. I want to do that back here again. I started it a few years ago, but see, it's what I'm saying. You got to really, and sometimes you have to, you know, like things come at you, and then one day you wake up, okay, now I know what I got to do. You know what I mean? Like it finds you. You know what I mean? Like that's why I'm saying, even with breatharianism, if somebody wants to be a breatharian, you can't. It'll find you. You know what I mean? It'll come to you. You can't get there. You got to prepare yourself. You got to open yourself up and just be there for it, and then it comes and gets you. You know what I mean? And I think that's, if that happens, good. If it doesn't, good. That's the way it is. You know what I mean? So then, as I say, no coercion, no force on that. It just comes naturally. Yeah. And that's all it does. You know what I mean? Just
to give you a little thing, out in the front boulevard here, where they plant trees. In this area, we had this Asian beetle thing destroy a lot of trees.
Yep.
It's not natural to this environment. Anyway, they ripped out the old tree because it died. And the city guy comes a few years ago and he goes, oh, we can't plant another tree. I go, what do you mean you can't plant another tree? There was a tree. I want another tree. And maybe about 2 years later, they came and planted the tree. And what do they plant? The only fruit tree in this whole area. These little berries. I don't know what it's called, but they're nice.
Yeah. So you can eat them.
Yeah, it doesn't grow big, this tree, but it's the only fruit tree in this whole area. Why would they plant it here? Change the environment internal. The environment internal is going to change, and vice versa. We affect each other. But it's funny the way it happened.
First you planted and then they plant the fruit tree, eh?
Yeah.
It's funny, eh? Yeah, as I said, there's things that come to you and look. See, we have too much knowledge, and it's really comes down to shed stuff, let go of stuff, and just work on essential things. For me, it's got to be related to nature. It's got to be within nature. Anything else is a waste of time. It's human fantasy, and I can't stand that any longer. You know, the older you get, the less I can stand that human human fantasy, and that's why with all the proof, with all the scientific, with all that. To me, it's all a farce. It's all, what do you want? Like, think about it. The world is with trillions of dollars in debt. To who exactly? To you and me? This whole system is so stupid. And think about it. I always say to people, because I had, you know, a while ago, but I had young engineers coming out of Switzerland, you know, and remember, young engineers, they solve the whole lot. They can solve any problem in the world. Mm-hmm. And I tell them, look, have a look at the plastic. Have a look at the plastic in the ocean. All right? The whole pollution that is out there. How are you going to solve that? And oh, yeah, we've got to clean up. I said, but hang on, clean up. That's just symptomatic healing, isn't it? Just we haven't stopped the cause of it. Oh, yeah, we got to stop these people polluting. I said, no, that's not the cause either. That's just part of it, of the symptom. The cause of this plastic is that we're using crude oil that should stay in the soil, that we shouldn't be using, that we're manufacturing. It's stop using, and the only way you can do it is by stop consuming. Because the more plastic, the more things you want, the more gadgets you want, the more you have to have it. All right? The cause is we need to stop consumption, and that is what's got to stop. All right, and that's the and then I said, and in regards of taking care of that, there's only one way. the only thing that can solve all the human problems that we have implemented on this planet is nature itself. Fukushima, Chernobyl. Would you like to go and clean up the mess? Would you like to go and battle your radioactive suit and go and clean up the mess? Would you? No, you wouldn't you? So who's going to solve the problem? You know who does? Nature does it. Takes a million years, a few billion years, but it'll get rid of it. All the plastic in the ocean, nature will get rid of it. It dissolves it. It breaks it down and it gets it back in and puts it back in the system. We can't do that, buddy. We can't. The only thing that can solve the problems that we implement is nature in itself, because we have lost that. It's like the rabbits here, as I said. We can't solve the problem. It's only nature can do it. So, but what we can do is stop the cause of it, and that's taking crude oil out of the soil and burning it and producing what we do to throw into the ocean. It's the only way you can solve it. You know, remember? And that's all it is.
We can't solve with the same minds that created the problem. It's impossibility. We have to go beyond. And, you know, my whole thing is thinking, you know, nature runs on the principles of the universes. So,
yeah.
You know, we can't ignore the universes. That's what this planet works under. And now that we have a taste and understanding, a bit of understanding, just scratching the surface of how the principles of the universe works, plasma with gravitation, magnetical, there's a whole new way, mindset and thinking to be able to solve these problems. And but the biggest thing is we got to stop producing the problems, the cost. Right?
That's correct. Yeah.
That's the number one. Because if you continue doing that,
that's the point. Yeah.
Oh, that's all it comes down to. That's how I say, and even Ramji and Ashley said, you know, actually, you have to think yourself away from it. You know, you just got to let it go and let it float away. You know what I mean? But the thing is, we don't have an alternate. You see, that's another thing. We in MFS here, we have an alternate on the physical, energetic side of it, that we can generate our own movement. But when you look at the world itself, our environment, my neighbors, like, okay, you know, like Walmart, you can make Walmart bankrupt within half a year. You know how? Don't go and buy there anymore. If nobody goes there anymore, they're gone within no time.
exactly.
But where else are they going then? You know what I mean? That's what it comes down to. There's no alternate. The system that we have in place has no alternate. We haven't got. We don't, and that's the problem. That means we can't say, oh, we don't want that anymore. Well, what else are you going to do? Where else is your food coming from? And where else is that? So, and that's where you can see, for me, the change needs to happen on the local side, that local people like us on the local level build an alternate side. But that alternate, and for me, I mean, that's what my beliefs are, is once you know how you can live with less or can live without food, then you can actually build an alternate. You know what I mean? Because then you're not bound onto 3 times a day I got to eat. I got to provide something 3 times a day on the table. So there is a point that you can start off with, and then, as I said, move out of the cities, get out of the deserts, out of the city deserts, and plant yourself back where, with your feet on soil, where you belong, and from there, with a non-coercive way of living with each other. And you will find then that, as we have in this group, when you have people that just can't get certain things in their mind, then they have to move in their own little society, you know what I mean? Like, but if we could stick to the realm of less is more, and it's got to be nature related, your yardstick is always nature. It's nothing else than that. Because if you don't follow that, you're always back to human fantasy. You're always. That made so much sense to me that with Masanobu Fukuoka. You know, there's no in between. You live your fantasy or you live your nature. And that's what it comes down to. And that's when you see that, and I can only go back to Indigenous, they have done that. We've done it. We've separated. We've severed, completely severed. And that is something that we should acknowledge, because, you know, first step of change, admit it. I've done it wrong. Shit, what am I going to do? Okay, let's move on. And then find a way. And the word, as I said, to spread the word of MFS, I think that's great because it gives me the power. I try to empower other people, but I can't because they can only do it for themselves. Remember, we can't help. We can only support. That's all I can. And if my support isn't wanted or is not there, then all I do is sowing seeds. You know what I mean? I sow seeds. That's all you can do. Then you know that, yeah, it's funny, as I said, when you see certain systems, how people then deal with it. As I said, it makes it, like, for instance, that Masanobu Fukuoka, now he actually developed a system where he was embedding the seeds into little clay pellets. And in the clay pellets, he had a little bit of herbs in it so that the birds wouldn't pick on it or any other things. So he was sowing it, and he said, look, it doesn't matter. Whatever will sprout, if the environment is right, it will sprout and it will shoot. You know what I mean? But leave it alone, you know what I mean? And he said, it doesn't matter what you sow. He said, and he went actually on helicopters and did it in Thailand and in India. Whole areas he seeded, you know what I mean, out of the aeroplane with his clay pellets. And you can see how it reforested, you know what I mean, how it regrew things that we destroyed. Because that was the hardest thing. He says, when I took over the orchard, and that was in the 1930s from his old man and the rice field, things were kaput, were damaged by men. Then I tried to, with logs, browing away logs, try to get the pH in the soil right and the minerals in this. And he says, no, just start planting and keep nature repairing it. Yes, sometimes it's like the broken eggshell. It's beyond repair. Then you got to restart absolutely new. And that's what we've done. Nuclear catastrophes is done. We can't do nothing anymore. That's it. We've just got to move away. We can't be there no more because otherwise we're done. And so on and so on. So that's where you see then who can do the repair? Only nature. The power and intelligence that made it can only heal it. It's the only thing. And I think when you keep the things that simple in your mind and keep overing, and as I said, emotion, thought, emotion, word, action, habit. Very simple. Keep doing it. Keep saying it like we do. I think that's then so, as I said, look, it's like the bad habits. How did you get the bad habits? Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep doing it.
Lots of effort.
It's not one time.
It's just the same with the good habits. How do you get them? Keep doing them. Keep doing them. Keep doing them. That's it. You know what I mean? Like it's the same principle. You just got to watch it from a different side. And when you see, look what awakenings did we have with getting on the path of health. You know what I mean? When your taste buds changes, when a lot of things change, it just happens naturally. It just happens because of it, because you keep doing it and keep doing it. You know what I mean? And I think that's a great thing. And that's why, as I said, for me, stints and stints and stints of MFS has, as I said, and it just reinforces it over and over again. I mean, you know, we're digging over the same soil, which we shouldn't do, because that's the problem. You know, that, like, just from that point of view, that's another thing that made so much sense to me when you explain the reason, how does the soil become fertile? You know what I mean? Like, think about it. It's because of what dies on top of the soil and then can disintegrate and go in. So certain weeds go 100 meters down with their roots to bring whatever it is, whatever trace elements, whatever it is, it brings it up and it dies off and it mixes it up. As soon as you plow, you cut that. It's like cutting your head off.
Right.
Well, you know, it's just the same thing. You cut all the life support off and you turn the topsoil over twice a year. Well, then you have no other choice of, well, we've got to fertilize it, we've got to herbicide it and pesticide it and do all the stuff, because you're cutting off the life support. Nature, have you ever seen a barren strip of nature where nature leaves the soil blank, like soil? No. First thing, there's weeds coming straight away. Within 24 hours, there'll be something growing out of it. Simple as that. It'll cover it up. It'll belong to earth and it'll be not letting it go, you know what I mean? And that's the same for us, you know what I mean? Like, we shouldn't, when we let nature back in, it will all restore everything we shouldn't cut it off. And we cut it and dose it off or eat it off, and that's the major breakdown. I mean, as simple as that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is.
So there's some seeds like that actually need to go through like a forest fire for them to be forth. So a new forest will come out of a forest fire.
Yeah.
So they won't sprout unless there's it burns down.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I mean, look, as I said, the cycle here, like, and look, a lot of stuff, don't we? Look, we've done an absolute tremendous job on codifying and cataloging this whole earth. You know what I mean? But it's all packed into our fantasy. We codified everything. Look, these buildings. Look at your building. It's done by a code. It's done by a building code. Have you ever seen a building code out in nature? Where's the building code out in nature? Where's such and such and such and such and such? This doesn't exist. You know what I mean? But we're very good at it. We're really good at it. And you know, when you're that good at it, you think everything belongs to you. You know what I mean? Like you think that you're in charge of everything and that you can manipulate everything. Any research runner that you read, and people, they put a claim on they hypothesize, they have a theory first, then they hypothesize that, and then they put the white coat on and they make it scientific. And then if you find people that believe that, they'll go on it, you know what I mean? They'll be with it. Yeah. You know, they'll start believe it. Think about, you know, the when we had Louis Pasteur and Berchamp, Antoine Berchamp, you know what I mean, about the journal of pleomorphism. Well, Louis Pasteur was the better businessman. He could promote himself far better, and his theory could make money to people, where Antoine Berchamp was, no, it's not nature. That's not how it works. But it doesn't make you money, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Because from good can go bad and bad can become good. So we don't have to do anything, at least leave it alone. It means you don't enter. And when you see just that, you know what I mean? Like how at the time nature has took over, society took over, and if it's not a money-making venture, we don't want to know about it. You know what I mean? That's so frustrating. That we have look, it starts there, and it goes through the history of all that. Latest thing is, look at this vaccination. You know what I mean? Like that. I remember the documentary Vaxxed, you know what I mean, that was showed. I mean, the whistleblower comes from the government, you know, from the CDC, and everybody is in denial of it. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, all they brought was a story, but everybody gets dragged down, and that's where you see even how we should not vaccinate anybody on this planet, because vaccination is totally unnecessary if you actually live healthy. If you actually live by nature, you don't have to be vaccinated, because nothing will actually happen to you, as simple as that. But go and tell that somebody else, you know what I mean? Like, as I said, that's so hard, you know what I mean? I find that so, when people get dragged down, wiped off the table, and for just the commercialization and for the greed and profit thinking of people, that is just so out of hand, you know what I mean? And that's where, again, you can only distance yourself from that and live in your own peace, you know what I mean? Simple as that.
Didn't Pasteur admit on his deathbed he was wrong?
What was that?
Pasteur.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. But look, that's what I'm saying. Admission is always then at the end, you know what I mean? Because, look, like there's so many other guys, I mean, so many, like Royal Raymond Rife, you know what I mean, with his microscope and with his frequencies. See, he worked with frequencies. He killed illnesses with the frequencies that he implemented onto people. Again, that's man-made stuff, but it worked, actually. It did actually work. And when you see that he got wiped off the table because of Mr. Fishbone from the AMA, wanted it and wanted to sell it and wanted to patent it so that they can make $1 billion, and Royal Raymond Rife said, no, I'm not going to sell it. I want to help people. That's what I'm here for. Not to make money, to help society. But again, it's all symptomatic. You know, it's healing. Man-made healing is not the same as what nature-made healing is. It's simple as it's not. And I think that's where this MFS differs from the mainstream, you know what I mean? Because we let nature take care of us and not man-made fantasies.
It's all limited to matter state frequencies, and you try that in this day and age, you're not going to get very far.
No.
We're in a whole different era now.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, look, as I said, there's so many other things that are destructive, and I just, as I said, I'm sick and tired of reading all this stuff because it's so repetitive. You know what I mean? As I got to heal myself on a repetitive daily base, it is so repetitive with everything else. You know what I mean? Like that is so destructive. But as I said, the MFS offers and is an alternative that can be implemented and that could swing people into the right mood and into the right direction. You know what I mean? But as I said, it's a day by day.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. Yeah.
It's all. It's we've been saying it from day one, and that's I've been fasting for 3 decades. You've been fasting for a while, and with many fasts comes the understanding. Unless you do it, you're not gonna get it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now that's. I mean, as I said, that's all. It's too clear. You know what I mean? And I don't. As I said, I find it hard when people just can't grasp that. You know what I mean? But that's the way it is. You know, it's just that's the hardest thing. You know, like you really like even with my mother or with my oldest sister. You know, she's a diabetic and she's really going the downward spiral of health, and you just can stand on the side, and you sort of, you feel hopeless. You know that you can't do anything else, because at the end, if they don't stop doing what they keep doing, it's hard. I don't know what like same as I said with your mother. You know what I mean? But that's, as I said, you got to look at the positive of it. That you're in charge for yourself, and that's all that matters to you, and that's all we can do to prolong our own existence. You know what I mean, and live to our own potential that we have. But as I said, and I'd hope to get, as I said, into a better natural environment where you can thrive on a. And I mean, it's not. Like think about it. It's when you look at past Indigenous cultures, they weren't living on a high consumption level. You know what I mean? It was you feed yourself to the extent that you're satisfied, and that's about it. You know what I mean? And everything else, the excess is not needed. You know, there's no need for it. Simple as that. And
there's no science telling them you have to have so many glasses of water, so many meals a day, and so many minerals, so many vitamins.
See all these details, but all these details you see. I mean, as I said, I've manoeuvred my way through different, because you see that's when I can say, as I said, it's a path that you're on. And I mean, see, you for 30 years, Gina, you've been going from this, from that, manipulating this, manipulating that. And then once you give yourself back to nature and you understand that V equals P minus O, then you understand that all the rest is not necessary. It's all irrelevant.
With 3 letters so simply, and it took me decades to really understand what I meant by that. I haven't seen anybody else really get it.
No, that's correct. And because you see, when I did the alkalizing and with Robert, you know what I mean, I had some contact with him, and had arguments with him, and he says it's funny. He said, Hans, when the student is ready, the teacher comes out. He said. I said, it's too right, Robert. Because I said you can't bash alkalinity for the whole life, you know what I mean? It doesn't work, you know what I mean? It's good to balance, but then you got to stay in balance. And what is balance is given by nature, you know what I mean? Not by men, it's given by nature. What grows in nature and what thrives in nature, and that's what it is. And he, see, even he got locked up, you know what I mean? Like at the end, they locked him up for a few months, because of he was practicing medicine without a license and all the rest of it. And I always find a reason to do that, you know what I mean? To get people off, because all he was there is to help people. And that's, I mean, you gotta support that. I support that 100%. when somebody sees, hang on, we're doing the wrong thing, that is, but then again, you got to see, for me, if it doesn't lead back to nature and you can connect with it, and that's when all supplementation to me is, no.
Exactly.
More supplements, because we don't live on supplements, you know what I mean? Like, supplements don't grow in nature. They're man-made, and that's where everything goes astray, you know what I mean? When you have these man-made fantasies, and that's all it comes down to. So I see, that's what I'm saying. It's, for me, it's a repeating the thing, and as I said, yeah, more is less, and keep it as simple as you can, and be happy with that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the body doesn't see chemistry. Body sees imbalance and balance, which way you want to live. And keep it that simple. I don't know how much more simple we can make it, because that's really how simple it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's correct. As I said, yeah, even the protocol has too many options, you know what I mean? Like, you know, with this and that, which is all good, because as you said, as you can see that people struggle, you know what I mean? And I don't know, you see when people sort of break free, you know, from all of a sudden they come clean, because I've seen that, I followed that through, you know, when you read people and they struggle, and all of a sudden you can have a break free, you know what I mean? Like, oh, they've taken a hurdle,
Right.
and now they don't argue anymore about this or about that. They can see, oh, shit, you know. Now, it's like the knots opened up, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
That's why we say when you get healing reactions, jump for joy, because
That's it.
stronger, you're going to come out the other end with a better understanding. And if it happens again, jump even higher.
Yeah. And that's why, see, that's why I say, I always say to my kids or my athletes, look, you don't understand it now, but it will come to you, you know, but you have to go through it, that it comes to you. And then no more explanation needed. No more.
What's the program of human nature? It's to argue, to find the science, to do what, where, when, why, how. Good luck. There is nobody knows. Nobody really knows. We don't.
That's
That's what I like to say. Get into your digestive vacation and let go work in autopilot, because really that's what's happening. Is our basic understanding, because that's where we come from. We come from the spirit, and it's all coming from there. This comes from there. So why have to put all this energy and so on and try to figure out a microscope and dissect? It doesn't work anyway. We've tried that. That only led me to confusion and sickness. Got myself in trouble. I must kill myself. You've experienced it. It doesn't work. Let it go. Digestive vacations is where it's at. We just have a simple structure. MFS has a simple structure, keeps it simple. We have all the different options because everybody has their own flavor. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, but I mean, the lifestyle is what we focus on.
Yeah, it's the lifestyle, man. We put emphasis on the lifestyle more and more, because
making it
in 4 years later, we're looking, people still don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy to get it. Sometimes the more options you get, I mean, you have to make it very simple. It's our responsibility as well, I feel, to make it very simple for people so they're not confused. They're not like thinking, oh, I have all these options to choose from. It's not fun. It's easier to make it simpler for them. This one thing. And you know, we really, I mean, eating after a long fast is a trap. We all,
it is.
So we have to help them as much as we can, prepare for breaking. And now we actually don't recommend longer than
you got to be ready for
6
doing
weeks,
long ones,
like 40 days. Just do 1 week to 6 weeks, right?
Yeah, up to 40 days for a first one is more than enough.
1 to 6 weeks.
Get the feel.
And then
40 days is long.
And then you want to start your lifestyle, which is like 1 day a week or 2 days a week of fasting, and 5 days a week of eating, including the dry, massive fast, liquid and dry.
More people can wrap their head around that, I believe.
Yeah. It's too much for them to think of a long one.
Yeah, I mean, I felt exactly the same in that way, because in particular the emotional stuff, you see, I find the more you give yourself into nature, you basically then have the body and mind and spirit has time to empty out. With everything that I did before, the emotions were always kept back in, because a lot of stuff you were supplementing. And when you supplement, I think it's just drowning yourself back into it. when you let open
Imminent.
and let nature come in, then I had so much, like in particular in 2017, it was an emotional roller coaster, you know what I mean? So much thing to be processed. I've never had that before, you know what I mean? Like that's really something that, and I mean, Ranji is a perfect example for that, you know what I mean? The way things come out of her, you know what I mean? Like, and it's just, and that's, it's you open up a valve that hasn't been opened, you know what I mean? And then you've got to deal with that. And when you've been obstructed and people have really lived, and as I said, since 2008, when I changed my blood around, I knew that this is the right lifestyle, okay? In that direction we need to go. But it's still, but there was far too much sodium bicarbonate and this and that, and then this and that, this, and all these medicines and all these cupboards are full of this shit. And then you think, and that, as I said, I can say now that it's all nothing else than clogging yourself up and keeping valves shut. You keep your valve, you got to keep opening up the valves, not shutting them down. And once you have that, and MFS triggers that in many, many different ways, that then the relief can come. And the relief comes by itself. You know what I mean? You just got to be there. That's what I'm saying. Meaning of life, just be there, mate. Just let it happen. Just embrace it and let it happen. You don't have to think, and it just comes by itself. Because why? Because nature does it. And nature knows what it's doing. We don't, but nature does. So let that happen and let that relief valves open up on the emotional side, on your spiritual side, and on all levels, you know what I mean? Obviously, then when you look at physicalities of all different kinds of things that happen to your body and that play in your body, and certain things I still haven't overcome, you know what I mean? I had a toenail fungus since I was a teenager, a young teenager, and I still have it. It's gone, stopped, really, really, really dramatically slowed down. But even what it is and how it is, I don't care. I work just with it and I let it be, and eventually it'll clear itself up. You know, one thing I do find is the earlier I can think back that I had something, what goes in first comes out last. You know what I mean? Like it's a bit like that. You know what I mean? Like what you pack in first in your bag, it comes out last. You know what I mean? So it does take its time. And people, one thing they don't have with their health is time. They want it instantly, instant gratification. And that's something that is as well not necessarily for, as I said, something that you have to deal with yourself, you know what I mean? Give yourself that time. And I mean, you've seen many people on MFS that then have, as I said, all of a sudden they said, oh, fuck yeah, it can't be done in 2 weeks. It's got to take a little bit longer than that, you know, and so on and so on. So that's all the same thing, you know what I mean? And I think that's good to have, to know. And as I said, be in there for the lifestyle and not for a gratification that I've solved this, you know what I mean? I've lost 10 kilos, so I can stop this now, you know what I mean? And so on and so on. Mm-hmm. That's just, as I said, that's just shooting past the actual goal that you want. It's just not, but look, there's all kinds of them. Oh, what can you do? You know what I mean? Like that's just, you know.
Instant gratification society that we're ingrained in that.
Yeah.
And they're looking for one to another, to another, to another. I see it out there all the time. I've been 30 years and it hasn't changed. It's actually getting worse.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it's just one thing after another, after another, after another. You know, they pop these drugs, they bang, they get that shock of feeling, so they feel something, and that's what they like. Yeah. It doesn't do them any good, just destroy it.
You see, that's where, I mean, I know that, and that's where, like, I'll go back, just one of the things that I find, when I went, like, just to understand, I know that we don't, I see in this realm, we don't, like, when I've been into health, you understand you have certain systems in your body and so on, and they work, you know what I mean? And one of the most profound explanations that I like, we have an energy system, yeah, or our electrical system, the spark of life, you know what I mean? And in our electrical system that runs us, you know what I mean? And that's the coin. You can be electrolyte stressed. So drink your Red Bulls and all these energy drinks and see how you can get stressed, really. That's a good example, you know what I mean? Like people have heart attacks. They drink 10 days and they're gone. Yeah. Or on the electrolyte side, you can be insufficient. Run a couple of marathons and you're electrolyte insufficient because everything has been used up, so you're putting yourself in danger too. So you can be on either side, you know what I mean? I've learned that. Then you have your circadian rhythm, your tissue, issues with your tissues, you know what I mean? You can now be on the anaerobic side or on the disaerobic side, meaning you can, again, for me, what made sense is the two sides of the coin, you know what I mean? That was to me important. I can rust or I can rot, you know what I mean? Both happens in me. And it's just, that was something profound that I found. Same with the energy production. You know, we have this Krebs cell, this mitochondria and all that, you know what I mean? It's all explained. But even there, you can be on the glucogenic side or on the ketogenic side, meaning you're a fast oxidizer or slow. All this stuff has all fallen by the wayside, you know what I mean? When you actually start, because at the end, to get yourself in balance, what you have to do, oh, I have to do this or I have to do that, I have to eat this, have to eat this. And I made a very simple example. Buy these magazines, these No Hope magazines, you know what I mean? And you see, when you go through, and I did that once with a highlighter, and it tells you what this is good for and what that is good for, and this vitamin is for this, and this mineral is for that, and that probiotic does this, and this enzyme does that, and this does this. So the whole magazine, the highlighter, it was all full of highlighters. And I said, so how can anybody make sense out of this? How can you put all this on one page that you can actually live by? But what people like, oh, I like that. Oh, that vitamin A does this. Oh, I got to have that now. And I got to do this now. But what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? And all this. And the whole magazine. That's when I understood, hey, this is all nonsense. You know what I mean? This is all, where's that one page? Where's V equals?
V equals P, take away O. But I just say, you know, you want to live an obstructive lifestyle or de-obstructive lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how much more simple we can make it.
No, that's correct. It's the simplicity of it. Easy.
You know, that's really where it's at. If you're continuously obstructing, you're going to be imbalance. If you're continuously de-obstructing, you're going to balance because it's automatic. And there's no mineral, no vitamin, no nutrition that's going to help you.
No. No. But it's funny that learn process, even like Rana, you said, you know, you came from the complex side of research as well, you know what I mean? And going through all this, like, see, this is another vision that I have. When you're born, we're standing on the planet, and that's why this picture there is there too. We're standing on the planet. What is our vision? Our vision is between 1.5 and 2 meters tall. That's the vision that we have. That's the vision that we should have. If you look with your vision, and you remember you can only focus on one point, you can't see two things at the same time focused. We can go into the micro, and we go under the microscope, and you can only look at one point. Now, this magnification is 20,000 times, okay? But how much do I see? I see absolutely F all, and what about all the things next to it?
And beyond.
Same when you look from your point into the macro, into the sky. How much can you see? The Hubble telescope can only focus on one point, you know what I mean? But how much more is there next to it? Do we need to know all of that? Do we need to know the macro? Do we need to know the micro? Our vision is built on standing on the earth, looking 1 point, whatever meter it is, and that's the vision you got to have. That's why you got to live, you know what I mean? That's what should be expanded and should be looked at. And we did it as Indigenous. We did that. They do this. They weren't worried about anything else. Yes, they had their spiritual things, and people, when they get older, they think, oh, we got to have this, we got to celebrate this, and the moon turns twice around, or whatever this and that. That's okay. But they didn't have to thrive off technology, of progress. Because, see, progress, what we do, is just materialistic, and it's just based on technology. How much human progress have we made in the last 100 years as humans? You know, not. Because what we do is charity, you know. We help people, but charity is top to bottom. You know what I mean? It's giving the top gifts to the bottom. The only thing that we got to do is solidarity. There's only one way to avoid poverty, and that's share. That's the only way you can eliminate poverty. Not give. No, not giving. Sharing. It's yours and it's mine. Come in. It's yours and it's mine. That's all there is. Yeah. Are we going to do that? Does the government live on that? Shouldn't the government do that? No, we don't. So that's what I'm saying. That's why you will have poor and poverty as long as we have a system like that. Because when you look at Indigenous tribes, there was nobody poor. There was nobody rich.
Exactly.
They didn't have materialistic things that they were putting on top of each other.
Yeah.
They lived by the law of nature. And I think that's what we've forgotten. We can still do this yes, the circumstances are different. But that's where we should put our efforts, and not in hoarding and getting this and getting that. I was just saying that's, again, comes right to it. I mean, like that poverty, you can eliminate poverty only by sharing, by nothing else. There's nothing else that you can do about it. And the more we have charities and the more we give and help, the more we put pressure on people. You know what I mean? Like, that's all it is.
Yeah.
And all that, as I said, is so like simple, and so, as I said, and it's frustrating because, you know, like, you can't, I know a lot of things I can't change, you know what I mean? It is as it is, you know what I mean? So the change can only be you, the change can only come from you, and then you try to, as I said, see yourself further amongst it, but even then, you can't go too far because, see, that's what I'm saying, stop transportation. Think about that. And then you can only go as far as you can walk. How far do you really get? You know what I mean? And you have to learn, challenge yourself to be sustainable with as far as you can walk. Man, then you come back to herbs and weeds and trees and this and that, because that's the only thing you can gather. You know what I mean? Exactly. And I think that's a challenging factor. And if you can do that as a human being, I think you have a hell of a lot more, we would have a hell of a lot more turning around than protesting against. Think about the yellow shown, you know, the yellow jackets in France, you know what I mean? They opposed, you know, like the government because of the inequality that they have, you know what I mean? But when they actually were asked, what do you actually want? They couldn't actually quantify it. They were just unhappy. You understand? Like the French are unhappy at the best of times, but they were just unhappy. Simple as that. But they couldn't quantify what real change do you actually want, because the system is so comprehensive, slaving you, that, well, we just don't want this, but there ain't no alternative. That's the problem. There's not an alternate system there, and that's why they go in circles. They can't find any resolution because, first, they don't want really what they want, and secondly, there's nothing else that can be offered. You know, you'll compensate them, give them more money, but that is not the solution, as we know. That's not the solution. Like Jim Carrey said, I wish everybody could have as much money as I have, then they would see that it's not the solution. It's not the solution. Simple as that, because you can't get that happiness from the money. You know, it gives you a comfort zone, but I think, as I said, that comfort zone gets well and truly, once you do your first fast, that comfort zone goes all out the window, you know what I mean? Because then you understand what it really means to be alive and to be closer connected to nature. Simple as that.
With that said, we're well over 3 hours. We usually do 2 hours.
Sorry for that. I've been babbling on too much.
No, it's fine. I think we should wrap it up because it's just be too long.
Yeah, sure.
To watch. It's been an excellent pleasure for you to, you know, share your wonderful time and your knowledge.
It was beautiful.
And your experience.
Absolutely beautiful.
I'm thanking you for the platform you gave. And as I said, I'm in awe. And as I said, I'm very grateful that I found the MFS, and that we as a group, we can make a difference. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. And as I said, but you can just one again. You know, you can see how even in the Q&As, you know, every week, you know what I mean, how you have the repetitive questions, and that's what I'm saying. Sometimes the infant shoes that we're in, or that you're in, very hard to grow out. You know what I mean? Because that's the hardest step. You know what I mean? Like in terms of creating that depth of people that then we don't have to discuss, and we know how that works. You know what I mean? We don't have to and then you can actually move on, because it's like that. Then once you establish that, it's like building a house. You know, the hardest thing is the foundation. If the foundation is right, the building up then can go very quickly. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm looking forward, that we can establish more. You know, like, yes, you got to dig and dig and dig and dig and dig to get the foundation right, so people know what the foundation is. Once the foundation, and enough people found the foundation and have actually established themselves with it, then you can raise, you know what I mean, you can lift, you know what I mean, and then you can go and flourish as a movement, you know what I mean, because that's really what it is, you know what I mean, like that we can move something towards freeing humanity from the shackles that we're in, you know what I mean, simple as that. Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you again.
Yep.
And, well, let's.
We'll stay in touch. Simple as that. And I'll definitely be on Zoom more often. You know.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much again. And
okay.
Let's keep.
Okay, everybody.
Much love to you. Thank you.
Very much love to you too.
Guys.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Good day, wherever you are. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.